and do it. So Goveka is gone, Zuma has done his job, there's various other riders that have done their job, and that's their day done. But from the cameras at the side, it's very important that you stay safe. I think we've only seen one crash in the feed station, and that was the under-23s. But just to give you an indication, you know, we're still doing 42 kilometres an hour on average. That's 5 to 6 kilometres an hour faster than the women's race in the middle of their race yesterday. That's just to give you an indication. These elite men are not hanging around, although it looks simple and easy at the front. But we had a bit of a lull in the action yesterday when the Austrian was in front, and you know, they were just riding relatively easy. This is not easy at all, and this is why Belgium and Slovenia are setting the tempo. They want to keep the average pace up, which starts to take its toll later in this race, and we're seeing it now.
There it is.
Very fast first lap at 43 kilometres an hour, but you know, we are still averaging 42 kilometres an hour. 22. The elite women were doing 25, 26 yesterday.
We're approaching the halfway mark of today. And considering we've already been racing for nearly 3 hours, Brian, that's massive. How close to 7 hours are we going to get today?
I think we will still be within 7 hours today. I don't know by how much, because it's my crystal ball.
It's clouded up.
Yeah, it's kind of cloudy. If they keep this up, then yeah, it'll be close to 6.5 hours, because these pro races, I keep on saying, elite races get faster and faster towards the end. But you know, that's the nature of the beast. You know, you come here, you've got teammates, they do a specific job. When their job is done, there's no point slogging a dead horse.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the sensible nature. When you've got a big roster as well, you can afford to to throw a few pistons by having a high revving performance at the beginning, and that's precisely what we've got. Govetska has departed the scene, so has Primožić and indeed Zuma for Slovenia, but that still, 3 absent leaves 6, which is bigger than most teams who are taking part here. They started with 6 Rwanda. This is Shewo Isin-Giyumva, who is just back of the cart having a little bit of a chat. Still looks lively. He's nowhere near calling time just yet, getting himself back in. The cars may well help. Mauritius have rocked into our consciousness in the women's race. Didn't quite happen for them. Alexander Meyer is here for the men, but they had very, very high hopes, and so did we for
Kim Lacourt.
Yeah, Kim
she
Lacourt
finished 8th yesterday, which equalled the best performance in the Women's Elite Championships, because Milman Pasio finished 8th a few years ago. Of course, in the whole championships, in the junior race, Ethiopia got 7th, was surpassed that, but in the elite, Kim Lacourt equalled the best performance by an African rider.
Well, there you are. Possibly, I think she was hoping to be part of the medals run-off. Didn't quite happen.
I think there's a few thinking that as well.
But yeah, very much so, and a lot of the favourites missed out. And what's the possibility of something similar happening in the men's elite race? There seems to be too much control, and the ability to control as well, Brian, within this race today. It looks like it wouldn't surprise me if we had Evenepoel, Pogacar, Del Toro, and possibly a couple of others of our principal favourites actually duking it out in a very select group of less than 10 at the end. That would almost be the ideal, wouldn't it?
That would be their ideal.
Yeah.
I think if it was to be like the women's race yesterday, then we need a counter-attack. We need a counter-attack on this Mount Kigali. If another Belgian rider, maybe the likes of Kia Nutebruggs, managed to get away. Of course, Van Wilder would have been a good asset to have, but he crashed earlier on today. But if you've got likes of Kia Nutebruggs and a few other riders, another maybe 6 or 8 riders go across to this front group, because it's only 2 minutes, and 2 minutes in this climb is not a huge amount. Then you have 12, 14 in front, and then it makes a big difference. And then if you get the cancelling out behind, then it could be a change. But I really can't see that happening, because wherever Belgium or Slovenia go, I think they'll start to cancel out each other, as we've already seen earlier on in this race.
Drum beats continue as we stay on the circuit, but we are now at the point where we're going to depart. I think this is a really good idea to have this extension loop that will take us away from the circuit, because when we come back we will only have 6 laps remaining to deliver our champion, and I think a lot of questions will be answered, maybe a few posed as well, by the time we get out here. The Amahoro Stadium, apparently it means freedom. It was actually a well-used stadium. It was built before the troubles that we had in this part of the world in 1994, and indeed was a safe sanctuary and was well protected before indeed that dark time was put behind us, and this great nation was able to pick itself up. And they've done an amazing job infrastructure-wise. These roads have been absolutely impeccable. It'll be fascinating to see what the roads are like when we head off towards Mwirebere. I imagine they're possibly just as good. We'll find out for you. Meanwhile, enthusiasm of the fans has been absolutely clear. I haven't heard Mr. Larynx up at the top of the cobbled section for a while. I think he's probably just popped a tonsil. Can you? I think you can. But anyway, he's gone a bit quiet is what I'm trying to say. Meanwhile, as you can see, some of the bashing of the hams going on here, and that is Kagimo of Uganda, another spectacular kit on display here. And the kids themselves on the side of the road will be bidding a farewell to these guys shortly. I think we do actually have this climb again after we have completed 9 laps, but it is shortly after this that we will depart and head off to the Côte de Péage, which will give us a different view and take us deeper into the mountains, where Mwirebere itself, 5.9 kilometres with 6.7%. Doesn't sound too threatening, but with ramps of 20%, and especially as I imagine we're going to have a bit of pace, because even if there is not an action off the front and a breakaway establishes itself, or indeed a fracturing of the peloton, just the very threat of it, Brian, is going to cause some nervousness, I'm sure, on the big peak.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't know why we're doing this loop. You know, I think most of the World Championships that I've seen in recent years, they do a big loop and then come in and do the circuits. I don't think I've seen a World Championships where they do 9 laps, they go out and another part of the course and then come back. And
I like the idea of it.
Yes, but logistical wise for some of the teams getting out there and getting back, and you know, you've got to remember that, you know, feed stations, and it's a little bit more logistical nightmare for some of these nations. But I was just in communication with on Instagram there with somebody that's watching, Sebastian. Hello, Sebastian. And I hope that there's something happening, and he's thinking maybe at Carapaz or Bernal, those sort of riders. He said maybe another train to Sfaxien or something like that. That would be good. If we saw someone like Carapaz or Bernal, we've not really kind of seen them. I don't think they're in the sort of form that can compete with maybe Evenepoel and Pogacar and things like that come the end. But I hope, this is what I was trying to allude to, that we get maybe 6 or 8, maybe some riders going across on that line, maybe to the front group, and that would cause a little bit more of a concern, a lot of these riders, because I don't think everybody can sit and wait. They've already learned from yesterday that if you're brave enough to go to the front of the race, and then there's a little bit negative riding behind, then you can benefit from it. And Carapaz, former Olympic champion, very good rider, and you know, unfortunately he never went to some of the big races this year because of a little bit kind of illness or injury and things like that. And I think that could be a stepping stone, this climb, for some riders that, and some of the, I say smaller teams, because when we look at the Colombians that are here, there's only 4 of them. There's only 3 Ecuadorian riders here. But it could be a kind of stepping stone to success, and I hope some of the riders, it would be good for us watching it, that if we see a kind of counter move going in that climb without any of the kind of major riders that are, you know, the betting choice for today. I've mentioned 2 of them, Evenepoel and Pogacar, and maybe Pidcock and co. It'd be good for that to happen.
William Gamay has been lively. Here's the answer from Mexico. I don't think this was a burn down, but Rubalcaba, I'm afraid, is no longer part of proceedings. Eder Frey is the last man standing for Isaac Del Toro. Meanwhile, Tadej Pogacar is getting himself up there. We've seen Binyam Girmay. Mohamed Kudus may well have a dig as well. I actually think that somebody from Eritrea is going to go a little bit deep just to get themselves active for today. Cal Scottson, back to the car. How much urgency is there about him? He's collecting bottles, so that suggests that bodes well. This will be carrying for others. I don't think he's just going to go to the side of the road and have a drink himself. So restocking, just taking his time to get up and over the rise here. But yeah, I've got a feeling that Eritrea are going to make a bit of a noise. Freya he's on the front, he's still doing that job, so it's going to leave Del Toro entirely isolated. Luke Lamperti of the United States, strong team this. Where their favours will lie at the end, they've got a couple of options, but I've got a feeling that we might see some hit and hopers when we get out and start thinking Quinn Simmons, for goodness sake. That would be nice. This is Fabio Christian, he's been a busy boy. He's part of the breakaway. We've seen the very early incarnations of it. Jan Christian, though, is I'm not sure whether it's a namesake or a brother. Jan, Mark Hershey and Mauro Schmidt are indeed their favourites.
Time to put your neck on the line.
Go on then. Oh, let's see. Yeah. I tell you what, these creatures, they've got some neck in them. This is our beautiful national park with the big 5, and the big 5 are hippopotamus, rhino, lion, giraffe, and water buffalo. I still can't get my head around water buffalo being one of the big 5. I just think they're too numerous. But sorry, water buffalo. I don't mean to upset you. They are big. I'll give you that. Back to this. The rises and falls. We've got the calm before the storm. We had a little breeze earlier on. That's suggestive of vortexing, which you get just before a storm. So it's very calm, then suddenly you get that sort of whoosh of cool air just before the rain comes down. I think it's because it's actually falling way above you, and there's a sort of a push of the air and a little bit of a rush. Japan with one rider here, and Yuhi Todome is still embedded. Good to see. I love the colours that we get in the Worlds. Meanwhile, if you want some colour, check this out. Lake Kivu and the rolling hills around it. Some of the volcanic areas here, and it actually does look like it's just been thrown up from underground, doesn't it? And it's that terrain which has offered us up the tea plantations in these parts of the world. You see the terracing, and our own steps have been taken throughout today. This will be the last time we are on the cobbles for about 40, maybe 45 kilometres. So the last rattling test, don't chuck a chain now because there's going to be some respite from it, but there are bigger pieces of geography that we've got to deal with. All credit to our breakaway, Brian. They've worked so hard, and Raul Garcia perhaps more than most, and there are his forearms you're seeing rattling away here. Did a good job to bridge that breakaway, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. A couple of them made a big effort, just getting some information that 3 of the 4 Germans have abandoned. 3 with stomach issues.
No.
Apparently Lena Lippert also had stomach issues. Yesterday in the race. So yeah, look, as I was saying, there is a lot of riders have to get everything right on the day, and you do rely on good health. you rely on everything, and sometimes you'll come away and to these races without a chef. You get that in a lot of pro teams. I know that we took David Hicks, a famous chef in South Africa, to the Tour de France, and his biggest problem was he would be in there for hours cleaning the kitchen before he actually used it, because he thought it was substandard in some of the hotels we were in. So if that's the case, they come in here and they're getting a little bit of a kind of stomach problem, whether it's the food, the water, or anything like that.
Could be viruses as well.
Yeah, these small things, these count, and obviously in the way over, you're sharing an aeroplane with normal paying members, public members that might be a little bit sick, so you never know.
One of the Eritreans, I'm not sure if it's Vinny himself actually, let's have a look. Just giving out because he just mashed his mech on the rattling surface here and has found himself back and out of the pack, which means he's going to have to put his nose in the wind. He knows what's coming, because up and over the top it's Zerai that's waiting for an exchange here. Might have to wait a little while longer, Naum Zerai. Meanwhile, it still continues to be driven on. Pace has actually picked up. Fastest lap so far was the first lap. I've got a feeling that this lap, which is our bid farewell, will actually be also very, very quick. We'll get a graphic on that for you shortly. 7 riders in the breakaway. The advantage they have is down to underneath 2 minutes now, 1:51. It was 2.5, getting on, not exactly for the 3 minutes, but we were kind of up there, weren't we, at that heady altitude. Here we are at the Flamme Rouge. Our friend with his vocal cords, which have been overstretched, is taking a break. We'll be hearing more from him a little bit later, I'm sure. But we're about to depart and head away for the cobbles for a cobble holiday, Brian, of over 40 Ks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any cobbles in this. There is on this Mount Kigali. If I remember the pictures right, but it's a shame for Araya. He's the national champion of Eritrea, of course, and to have a mechanical at this moment, and of course, not ideal. I hope he gets service very, very quickly and manages to get back. It's going to be obviously very difficult. Anybody having problems getting back.
Yeah, and you can see a few just starting to churn. We're going to get used to that. This is Rojas from Costa Rica. Looks like it's got a rear puncture. Can't quite see. You're certainly looking at the chain rattle, which is very much a character of what we are having to deal with. Venezuela. Well, some of the South American teams have a great deal of representation, and it is always a pleasure to see them in action. But Penuela at the back, just having a word with the car. Richard Carapaz from Ecuador. Of course, the Colombians, strong representation here. Brandon Rivera with Inga Bernal, Harold Tejeda, Walter Vargas. That's a strong unit, to be fair. How far Inga Bernal can go at these Worlds, I expect he'll be at the pointy end. He probably would have preferred it to be a little bit more full-on mountainous. But you never know. It's been a long road back, I'm afraid, for Egan Bernal, and we wish him all the very best in his retrieval. Meanwhile, as they come across the line here, the clock begins to count. It's red, but there's a bit of pace, Brian, because everyone just wants to have their nose into the new road. Yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see what Egan Bernal decides to do. Whether he waits, that's what I was talking about before. Can you afford to wait? Do you want to go toe-to-toe with Pogacar and Evenepoel? Do you want to put yourself in front, take a leaf out the women's race yesterday? So I think Egan Bernal definitely might be of interest on this climb. We know he's a good climber. We probably know he's not at his best, and it might be an opportunity to use the Mount Kigali to his advantage.
Eddie Dunbar's being brought up here. And, you know, good mountains, man. Let's see, it's not the biggest test, 5.9 kilometres, but it's the ramps within it. It's going to feel like a classic test, I think. But we'll wait until we get there, because this will be our short lap, start-finish line that we will take for the last time for a little while, to be fair. So we're heading out into the countryside, and I'm rather pleased about that. Gap's been whittled down, Brian. It was far more significant than this, and I think it's just a measure of, I think, the respect that they're giving the breakaway, but also the potential for others to spring off. They want to keep a pace going so that they can moderate anybody who might go up the road. Somebody like Ben Healy.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one for Ben Healy. We know he wants to go from distance. That's what he does. We've seen him doing that magnificently in the Tour de France to take yellow and take a great stage. And you know, we saw him in the Olympics in Paris doing something a little bit similar. He is the type of person, but in the form that he's got at the moment, I think he can afford to kind of wait a little bit and maybe wait for the Healy's tactic. Be interesting to see once we come off this and head towards Mount Kigali who decides to go. I think we will see some action. I'm not too sure it'll be the action that goes all the way to the end, of course.
130 kilometres before we get there. If the camera could just pan a little bit right, we would see a whole raft of grey clouds, and it's starting to kick off. Well, this is nice. Switzerland coming into today. We've seen Fabio Christen doing an awful lot of work up front, but they also have Jan Christen, Mark Hirschi. Never quite know what to think of Mark Hirschi these days. He seems extremely variable, but then again as well, he's also highly capable when the mood suits him, and he can actually go very, very loud. Switzerland making sure that we are talking about them. These look like herons, taking flight. Sharp beaks, generally tend to spearfish, sort of spearfishers. Yeah, why not? Who's going to land the big one today? It's still too early to predict, quite frankly, Brian, because there's so many riders. I wouldn't be surprised if they did win. But do you think we'll get some that are really off our radar that might actually just take a step forward?
That's, I think we've been speculating. We've been talking about Carapaz, Bernal, others. You know, who would be the riders that would do that? You know, I think
Healy, Quinn Simmons.
I think Quinn Simmons is going to wait. He's been looked after at the front of the peloton. This is, however, Mauro Schmidt. They have got a rider in front, but we saw how great yesterday the Swiss roads. Okay, they got fourth in the end, but I thought they were one of the team of the race yesterday. They were getting everything right, putting riders in all the right moves, but unfortunately came fourth. But there's a lot of riders that might decide to do something. It might be a case of, you know, Oscar Onley doing something on the climb and going, and for Tom Pidcock to kind of wait back. That would be maybe my tactic.
That's a very good shout, yeah.
Or is Oscar Onley and Pidcock going to kind of hold back to the final kind of couple of laps? It's indecision. I think, looking at yesterday's race, I think there'll be a few teams looking to try and do something on this climb and try and go over the top of the climb and go to the front of the race to put pressure on the others.
Check out what's happening behind this move here by Mauro Schmidt. There's a lot of teams suddenly mobbing the front, and Belgium have got some company. Norway starting to have a think about it. Denmark are looking numerous, I must say, and they've got a fighting force. Matthias Chelmors, we talked about his Ardennes Classic head and the way that might transfer to this. I kind of believe in him. The team quite clearly do, and they are moving him up. The Intare Conference Centre looks like something that's just landed from outer space. Not landing yet. Mauro Schmidt, not a blow anyway on the peloton, and it's still being moderated, and it's split into two, like a large tuning fork at the moment, and at what key it's going to be set to, I do not know. And who's got the key to the door a little bit later on? Remco Evenepoel is, every time we look at him, looks very, very nervous. And look at Slovenia. They've burnt down 3 of their number, but they still have 6. Meanwhile, Estonia and Ryan Taramay, he was here on his own, and he's pulled the pin. Thanks to him. He's been a great rider for so many years. And this vast lake, look at that, it's a beautiful picture. Credit to the director of photography for that one. Absolutely beautiful. Well, today, Beauty or the Beast? Well, somebody's going to be the big beast today. I'm not quite sure who it is going to be. Dan Rafferty just picking him out. Just making his way up as well is Ben Healy. I believe Ryan Mullen was in the pit area. I'm still not sure whether Ryan Mullen is out yet. This is Morgado of Portugal. I love the way that they just dissembled the word Portugal on their back. It's great from a heli shot, to be fair, just in case you're wondering. And our breakaway is now just starting to fracture ever so slightly. Check out the shoulder here from Anders Fuldegger. I'm just wondering who, indeed, of the trio is going to bridge over. And the answer for the time being is none of these. Fabio Christen of Switzerland's just holding fire. Likewise is Marius Meyerhofer. The gap's down to 95 seconds, and to be honest, it looks like their day is done. They've been up here for a long, long time. And now as we leave town, we're heading out into the countryside, and the first test is going to be the Côte du Péage. I don't know whether that is actually going to be a toll booth. I guess we're going to wait and see. 2.2 kilometres and 5.8%, so not the most sterling climb, but possibly a little bit of a mirror of what we've already dealt with. We've got our circuit climb to go, and that's after this next climb. You'll recognise it. It's not the cobble climb, it's the other one. If you've got two major climbs within the circuit. And so we're going to enjoy that. And then we're leaving town. And we'll be gone for a good old reach. So we've still got another, 30-odd kilometres before we actually get back to the cobbles that are part of our short lap. May well be that we find a little cobble section within Mont Kigali itself, and that is what is going to define us today. This is a floodplain that, there you go, overcast 27 Celsius. In fact, temperature has picked up, and so has the wind. This is beyond the 9 kilometres per hour predicted, and that suggests a breeze and possibly somebody kicking up a storm. Mauritius and Alexander Meyer.
Yeah, it's always an honor to represent my country, and I'm very happy, very proud to be here. First time in Africa for me, first time for the World Championship in Africa, so yeah, we are ready.
Could we expect seeing Victor Langelotti in a breakaway?
I don't think so, to be honest. I will try my best to just stay as long as possible with the top guys and see what's possible in the final laps.
And your prince is present here, so extra motivation.
Yeah, exactly. Extra motivation is always, super nice to have the support of the Prince Albert. So, I'm going to give my best to represent Monaco as best as possible.
Merci à toi.
Representing Monaco, and as you've heard, His Royal Highness Prince Albert is here, very much a cycling supporter. Loves his racing generally, actually. I guess you've got to, because it'll be, of course, the Grand Prix rushing by his front door almost constantly. 40%. This is the Côte Kigali, so the rib of Kigali. We're leaving this. We also have the Mont Kigali and the Peak Kigali. How many more? There's the mountain, there's the peak, there's the rib of what? Kigali. That's where we're playing today. Well, 124 kilometres. Kind of feels a bit doable now, doesn't it? We are, would you believe, finally beyond the halfway mark of today's race. A mighty distance that was, quite frankly, just a little bit frightening at the beginning of the day, but now seems kind of quantifiable. It's not that they've ridden easy, and our breakaway, which is starting to break down, this is Menno Wissing. He looked like he was struggling a little bit last lap and has done so again on this climb. He's done an awful lot of climbing, and I remind you there's plenty, over 5,300 metres of it indeed. I've got to tell you, this is 5,393 altitude metres in total by the end of today. That's 1,100 more than last year in Zurich in 2024, 2,500 more than the World Championships in 2023, 1,200 more than in 2022, 3,100 more than in 2021. I'll stop this now. But just to say, the Qatari desert version of the World Championships, we have 5,000 more metres than we had in Qatar. All right, I know the desert's flat, but you know, only 300 metres of altitude gain during that race. It was the wind that was the problem, and only on one corner. Oh, and the heat. Gosh, I remember that so well. Seeing riders just evacuating their tummies, that's the best way, just in polite company. Because of heat exhaustion, it was horrible to witness. In fact, dare I say it as well, there was a lot of dexterous camera work where we avoided seeing some of the worst impacts of the heat. It was too much for a lot of riders, and I don't think it's going to be any time soon that we go back to those kind of temperatures. And we were nudging up sort of late 30s, hoving towards the 40s. It was too much. Thankfully, the weather here has been almost perfect. 27 Celsius, although heavy with humidity. And as you can see, the clouds are screaming and wrestling with themselves in an attempt to form a thunderstorm. We've escaped that fate so far, but it does feel like pretty stormy, and there is storms in the area, or the region, let's put it that way. Whether they'll grace us is anybody's guess. About a 40% chance before the end of today, so it's an increased risk. And as indeed we deal with this climb and the exit starts to beckon, and we'll say farewell to Kigali momentarily as we dip on a lick, if you like, into the countryside. All of a sudden, I guess the pace just to get into a decent place is starting to take a toll. Roy Townsend it is that drifts to the side of the road. Do you remember how hot it was in Qatar, Brian? It was not kind.
Yeah, I was there. I was there on site doing the commentary, and you know, looking at Qatar, and you were just saying about the elevation meters. Can I just say, you remember who won in Qatar?
Yeah.
Right. Year before, we had Richmond, which was quite lumpy. You know, very difficult, classic type of finish. And then we had afterwards with Bergen, which wasn't easy as well. So those were the 3 years that Peter Sagan won the world title. So it doesn't always come down to how many elevation meters we have if you've got wind. In that Doha World Championships, it did come down to a sprint in the end, but it was a hard race. So it just goes to show you how versatile Peter Sagan was. He could win on some hilly courses, and he could win on the flats. Today, I think he would have been in there with a shout, of course, because I think it does really kind of suit a kind of classic rider. So, but for more, I think this is really going to see, and this is, we're just seeing here from Jay Vine and Domin Novak. We're seeing just you see Michael Matthews just a little bit of a bandage on his right leg there. That's from the crash he had earlier on. Whether it's going to have a big effect on him, we'll have to kind of wait and see in this one.
I remember Mark Cavendish being a little bit upset by the result in Qatar. In fact, it came down more or less to a sprint finale, so it was a dramatic finish. It's going to be thinner down, isn't it, here? That's for sure. Just by we've seen it in every single race. There's no such thing as a bunch sprint on this kind of circuit, right?
No, and depends what you quantify as a bunch. Are two people a bunch?
No.
Okay. So what do you quantify as a bunch?
I would say more than 6.
Okay. That to me is a small group. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I don't think it will be. It's going to be really interesting what happens on this climb. We don't actually leave Kigali, do we? Because this is the mount of Kigali.
Well, we do. It just overlooks Kigali, but albeit from a distance, I must admit. But, as you will find out in a short while. But yeah, it's going to change the complexion. Already different, Brian. It's good to see some a different route. I'm not at all fed up with the course. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I've loved it. But it's nice to have a bit of variation, and I like the fact that we've got this loop in the middle of the day, as opposed to, as you were saying, more classically so, just coming in from distance. Almost feels like the final day on the Tour de France or the Vuelta a España, that you come into town and then do your thing. For others, their thing has been done.
Yeah, just taking part. The Mongolian team here, best as he can. Well, he was in the mix earlier on today. He tried to get himself in the breakaway, didn't manage to get there, and he's done his country proud. We're just looking at over the finishing line the last time. We still do have 101 riders still in contention. We've got the riders in front, of course, the main peloton. We started with 164 riders.
Well, that's actually not as bad as it could have been, to be honest, especially if we had some rain. But looking up the road here, you're starting to see clouds just gathering, and metaphorically, at least, I guess that's on our breakaway. Been pared back down to 1 minute and 15. It's drifted once again, and right now they have 2 minutes, but albeit a shorter roster within the break. Fuldeger still here for Denmark. Julien Bernard and Ivo Oliveira, in fact, they were part of the original formation that's eaten into much of the day. Only, dare we say that, 119 kilometres of the day remaining, but we've had 3.5 hours of racing, Brian, and here we go. Mont Kigali awaits. I think that's our peak, Brian. I think we're getting a view from it. Hard to tell, to be honest, in all the roads.
Good crowds. I think most of them will hopefully come back into town for the final laps. But yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier on, about the logistics for some of the teams getting some support out there and then coming back in, and it's even for some of the spectators. Looked as if it was it was packed up there on top of the climb, and a lot of people have had that decision to make of maybe looking to see the riders on the course or going up to the highest point of the race today.
Lovely to see the fans here.
It's like the Tour de France.
It is, yeah.
The convoy,
wrestling for the B-Dogs, but yeah, as you were saying, for the promotion, the publicity convoy. I mean, they start throwing out sweets and hats and all kinds of stuff. And seeing grown men wrestle grannies for a packet of jelly sweets is a sight on the Tour de France.
Coincidence?
Not quite sure it is, but certainly a groovy kit.
He's a doppelganger.
Yeah, I think so. Meanwhile, there is Kigali, and we'll be coming back in. We're just going over the Côte de Péage as we speak. And I think this is part of our new course. And boy, oh boy, is it populous. This is great. They've loved having this. It's an absolute privilege. The biggest sporting event that has taken place in this nation, of course, and for much of Central Africa, I'll be bound. I know there's the African Nations Cup, which is a football competition, of course, which is extraordinarily popular, and quite rightly so. It's a brilliant competition. South Africa itself, as you know, is host of the Olympics and the World Cup as well. But in this part of Africa, this is something extraordinarily special. And as far as the UCI is concerned, it's our first visit. I don't think it's going to be our last by any means.
No, I think it's just a matter of time of, when we're back here. They try and kind of spread it out throughout the globe. So I don't know when.
I would try. It'd be nice. Can you imagine the crowds?
Yes. I can remember after Daniel Tekla-Heminer taking the mountains just for a few days way back in 2015 in the Tour. He went back to a rapturous reception.
Amazing. And tens of thousands of people wearing polka dots as well, Brian. He's on a
scary sight. Yeah.
Wonderful. 2 minutes and 2, it's gone back up. Oh, yeah, just seeing that's more of the fauna that graces this part of the world, but this is all about the approach to Mont Kigali and then coming back into town. Is it going to be a launch pad? How far's too far after a day like we've already had, and how much are you preserving yourself? In the women's race, we noticed how fresh and ready Magdalene Valliere was from Canada. Every time that she came on screen, we were saying to ourselves, wow, she looks very, very good on a course that suited her down to the ground. And despite starting the day at 400 to 1 as one of the rank outsiders, she absolutely rocked the race. I'm just hoping and wondering if we'll get something similar. Looking at the big beasts of the Amagare National Park with the big five, of course, which elephants are very much part of. Yeah, friendly beasts, but if you ever see one with a sort of a trace line of fluid coming down from the side of the forehead, I'm not talking about the ears, run like hell, because it is a very angry elephant. It's almost like a poker tell before they go all in and start stomping. These are grumpy creatures as well. Not the lions, you understand. They're kind of quite chilled out until you get out of the car eating a ham sandwich, and then you're in trouble. The rhino, the white rhino population here has indeed rocketed, which is brilliant. Part of a very forthright conservation program. And of course you've got the buffalo, which we have to mention. But it's where your mozzarella comes from. We had some of that last night. It was very nice. 2 minutes and 5. It's not full on yet, Brian. When?
No, but it is taking its toll. We had 7 riders in front. Now we've only got 3. It just means that the pressure has been on the race. If you want to stay in front, you have to put the pressure on. And clearly these are the 3 strongest of the 7. The same can be said about the peloton as well. But I'm just going to pause a moment.
Ah, shoots! Amazing. I'm loving this part of town, Brian.
What'd you say? I can't hear you.
How wonderful is that? What a reception. And right now they're going to do it all over again as the peloton come through. What a reception. Absolutely fantastic. Looks like the market area, to be fair. I screamed down into and past that tumultuous crowd. What a welcome. And what a bidding of a farewell as well. Oh, there's more. You know, as a rider, there are emotional peaks that you get with any career, and anyone who's ridden through here is not going to forget this, Brian.
No, you aren't, and we're hearing from some of the riders that have raced already, and just look at how deep the crowds are here. Absolutely incredible, and we're hearing the riders say how incredible the atmosphere is. The crowds, the fans outside the roads, they're all cheering for their bike riders. They're not just cheering for the Rwandans. They're cheering for every cyclist. And I believe that the Swiss riders at the back there were just saying, "Can you believe this?"
Exactly.
And I would be exactly the same. Are you taking this in? This is incredible. And even Remco Evenepoel always said that this is some of the best training roads that he's ever trained on. Just watch this moment here.
How lovely is that? Jan Christen just urging Maro Schmidt to take it in. Well, as if anyone needs reminding, you're kind of forced to. It's lovely. There's a whole, I guess, waterfall, if you will, of goodwill which has poured all over the UCI. And indeed the riders in this amazing place. And for that, we thank the people of Rwanda. It's been brilliant. 112.7 kilometres of the day. And let's start playing with some peaks, shall we? Volcanoes National Park is something very, very special. Once you get beyond the tree line here, provided you've managed to shake off a couple of spiders, I imagine, the views will be amazing. Back over the mountain gorillas of the Volcanoes National Park, part of a conservation program, which, thank heaven, has protected those majestic creatures and given them a habitat within which they can thrive. And if you ever get a chance to go and experience it, please do so. They've had various schemes to get people to have a greater care for the gorilla population, one of which was actually photographing each of them and giving them a photographic profile, because just as with humans, they all have very different characteristics about them. They all look very different. They have their own personalities. It's just wonderful to see them at peace in their own environment, and of course vegetarians and very peaceful creatures, unless they're sort of busy working out who's boss. Of course, we've already decided at the commentary position who the silverback is, and it's not me. Silverback, silverhead, but gold when it comes to commentary, Brian. Thank you very much for being here.
Just don't mess with me.
There you go. That is Brian. Just in disguise, going to try and mix it with some of the gorillas. Back to the racing, and this is starting to feel like the pointy end, Brian. As soon as we get into double digits, it feels like it's going to get full on, this, and you don't want to miss out, and it's a terrible time to start when the pace begins to climb. And Tisfatsion keeps it calm, gets the exchange, gets back in the cars. No, not too much damage. If you're going to have bad luck, have it at an opportune time, but we're pacing up here.
Yeah, you can see the speed here. Not the best time when we start to head towards the major climb of these championships, but it was a quick change. No messing around, changing the wheel, and you know, it was a quick bike change, and he'll soon be back on. But yeah, look, if you've ever watched or seen the coverage of the Tour de Rwanda, if you haven't, go back and watch it. This doesn't surprise me at all, because the Tour de Rwanda gets these crowds, you know, great atmosphere, and they come out in numbers, and I'm just looking forward to the next decades of Rwandan cycling, because you know, we see what happens in other countries when they've got a major games or a major championships, and you know, all of these youngsters hopefully will be inspired by, you know, what they see, and hopefully we'll see more and more Rwandan cyclists coming to, you know, the highest levels of our sport.
Look at the front line here. Everyone's getting involved. Colombia drift up to the front. Brandon Rivera, Inga Manel, Tejada, Vargas. Britain are on the front as well. Not quite sure who they'll be working for today. I'm hoping that Tom Pidcock is back to his best. He looked a little bit second-hand earlier on today. Might have ridden back into himself. Oscar Onley, naturally enough, they are mobbing the front line. The camera's just trying to pick out Telly Boccaccia here for you, there in the bright green, not that far away from the golden helmet of Remco Evenepoel, almost monitoring each other at the moment. 2 minutes and 4 back to, or out to this, guys, the trio up front, with the peloton sitting within range at the moment. But here we are at the peak. 20% is no laughing matter, Kigali. And
no tongue out.
Yeah, no tongue out, not yet.
Do you know that site that I've just seen there? Do you know what? If this was in any other country, I don't think we would be seeing these sites here. Look at every spectator and fan outside the road. What are they doing?
Watching the riders, not on a phone.
Encroaching the roads.
And respecting
If
their
this was any
environment.
other race anywhere else in the world, I think they would be on the road encroaching the riders. They are showing the riders 100% respect.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful, and great to see. So you can have the atmosphere, you can throw your love and appreciation at the riders without laying a hand on them, waving flags into their mech. It's a whole new a whole new way of being and celebrating. I mean, we love the passion of cycling fans all over the globe. Some display it in more forthright manner than others, but don't put hands on the riders. It's fabulous. And look at this, a clear road for them to play with. A little bit of encroachment on one side here, but that's just by the sheer numbers, I think. Rather than any will to indeed mob the roads, they have indeed they're going to witness something very, very special. And here it is, the charge into the climb. Now, this is for everybody to get onto the climb in short order, in good order, I should say. And America, the United States, want to be part of this. Security bikes coming through, just urging everyone to maintain their decorum, which they are doing absolutely brilliantly. And everybody looking at not the cameras, but the riders, and you've just got to love that. Their emotions are being poured out into appreciation of what the athletes are doing. And there is a big, big drive to get onto this climb in a good position, and it's accounting for a trimming of the time. It was over 2 minutes before we got to this climb. It's now down to 1 minute and 47. Wait and see where Ireland are. They were at the front as well. So were Great Britain. So were quite a few others. Switzerland, Portugal, the United States. We mentioned the Irish. Meanwhile, it has an impact, Brian.
Yeah, job done. 150 odd kilometres on the front for Florian Vermeers. A bottle from the team car. Day done. What a job this man has done today for Belgium.
Well, he is empty, and it's almost a shame within the sport. I guess you might say that only one rider from a team, even at Olympic level, receives the medal. All other team sports within the Olympic movement, of course, each get a medal. I think there's something to be said for it. I think the winning team, the winning rider and his entire team should come to the podium. That would be lovely. But only one, of course, can wear the rainbow bands. And who will that be today? Quinn Simmons. Could it possibly be a surprise? That would be something absolutely magnificent. He's terrific at making us talk about him. And one suspects that that's precisely what we're going to be doing. Quinn Simmons, sometimes he takes on more than he can chew, but occasionally he feasts.
I mean, my legs are good, but I think like a lot of the peloton since the yeah, I think I mean, my legs are good, but I think like a lot of the peloton since the tour, we have quite some fatigue in the legs at the end of the season here. So, you know, some days I wake up super good, some days I wake up quite bad. So, yeah, I hope for one of the good days today.
So it's on feeling, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we come here. The course should be over the limit for me on paper, but maybe the altitude makes it possible. We just have to see. At the end of the day, I've had my best season ever, so anything I do here is just extra, but of course we're motivated to finish it off well.
Thanks, Chris.
He has had a fabulous season. Took a stage in the Volta Catalunya. He was runner-up on the stage into Normandy behind Ben Healy, who is somebody else on this kind of terrain that could go very well. That day it was 201 kilometres, one of the longest stages of the Tour de France. I think we were, in the early days, it was the 6th stage, I'm reminded. But if you actually look at the run from Bayeux to Vire-Normandie, there was a whole sequence of climbs pretty similar actually to today's parcours. So if you extend that by another 60 k's or so, you get the idea of what he's dealing with. And if you actually look at that day, Healy won ahead of Quinn Simmons, Michael Storer, Eddie Dove. Getting the idea. These riders are here. Tadej Pogačar that day finished in 9th place. Remco Evenepoel in 12th place. Oscar Onley was one of the best placed Brits. Simon Yates did well, but Oscar Onley, who is also here, also had some fun. For some of the work, for those in the boiler room, they have done their stoking job on behalf of their teammates, and now it's time for the principals to realise their ambitions. And with 107.7 kilometres of the day remaining, the gap's down to 1 minute 25. And this might get to be a bit of showboating because by the time we get to the top of Mont Kigali, we're then going to come back past the crowds into town, and we'll have 6 laps remaining to find our champion. When we get there, well, it's anybody's guess who is still remaining, because a lot of those that have carried the early 9 laps before we actually got to this loop out of town have burnt themselves down. Have they popped a valve? Let's wait and see. Looking further into this group, and Italy, well, we keep wondering what their form will be like. This is Sobrero in the company of Fortunato, Mr. Lucky we used to call him. They're all for Giulio Ciccone. It's got Catania and Baggioli. Catania looked a bit second-hand earlier on, but I think it was a technical. Ciccone is their man, who's also had a great season. Possibly would have liked more, but then again, you say that to all professionals, and they feel pretty much the same way. 3Ks to go before we get to the top of the mount that's defining this day, really. I know that we have there's numerous laps, 15 in total, of our big circuit. However, we have the most focused percentages are just ahead of us right now. It's a matter of, 20% just towards the top end of this peak. And so, for the first time, the maps really go black. But I've got to also tell you that there is a little respite point that they have to bridge to. It's a flat zone of about 600 metres before we actually take on the full chat up towards the top. Off that, we'll have possibly the longest descent, or certainly the steepest as well, that we have within this race. Then it's back onto our circuit, and of course the cobbles that we are familiar with to introduce us to the 10th lap. We have to complete 15 in total, so there are 6 to be taken once we get over the top of this. And getting over the top is an over-the-top demand, and the questions are being asked already, Brian.
Yeah, Ivo Oliveira, one of the riders that really kind of instigated this first move. A couple of riders chipped across to the group, but you know, this was the rider that was actually shown more, riding more at the front, and I think we said it at the time, Ivo Oliveira, renowned for his track racing, his sprinting, his prologues, now renowned as a climber, and on the hardest climb of these championships, starting to drift away from the duo in front of Fuldagger and Julien Bernard. Julien Bernard from France was one of the riders that came across to this move. Seems to be one of the strongest left at the front, but with the gap it's 1 minute and 20. This crowd are absolutely enjoying their day today. It's going to be very, very difficult for these riders to stay away even before the top of this climb comes, but this crowd is dense. Mexico now come to the front. The Slovenians gain control again. It really is thinning out now. So Freya of Mexico, well, he's been doing a little bit of work already today. Mexicans came here with 3 riders. More importantly, one of the favourites, Del Toro. So just inside 2 kilometres to go to the top of this climb, as Carlton said. Possibly the hardest part of the climb still to come. We are currently at 9%, and Slovenia take control of the race. Pogačar sitting in second place, Evenepoel in third. Could this be the future of Rwandan cycling? Plenty of youngsters out enjoying their day. Domen Novak at the front for Slovenia. Del Toro and Juan Ayuso, teammates of Pogačar, up towards the front of this race. Kay Nutebrix for Belgium in the yellow helmet, just on the far side next to Del Toro. But these are incredible sights that we're seeing in this Mont Kigali with the crowds, especially the youngsters. And there they are, enjoying their day. So Domen Novak leads this peloton. The Swiss with Jan Christian and Mark Hirschi off to the left-hand side. Ben Healy in the green on the right, the darker green to the Slovenian outfit. In front of him, you can see the former Olympic champion, and that is Richard Carapaz. So one by one, the workhorses of Slovenia sliding out the back door. These are incredible sights we're seeing here in the Kigali World Championships. This peloton really has thinned out, and is that Quinn Simmons now on the drift at the back of the peloton? It does look like his style, the American. We were talking about Quinn Simmons as a potential threat in this race, possibly an outsider, but it looks as if he was drifting on this climb.
We did actually hear from him just a few minutes ago as well, saying that he thought the course would ask some questions of him, and whether or not that could be successful or otherwise, depending on his legs on the day. And he actually declared his own form as variable in this kind of terrain. And that's an honest answer, quite frankly. You don't know how you're going to feel until you take it on, especially the sort of amount of work that you're demanding of your own body. This is Kathebo of Ecuador. He'll be hoping to stay there for Richard Carapaz. Not quite sure how much use he is going to be by the pointy end of the day. And Monaco, Victor Langelotti, you just saw him with the red and white stripes down his back, just towards the back as well. No team support. Sometimes you just got to help yourself. And Julian Bernard, if there was a combativity award in the world, maybe it would go to him. Is Mate Mohoric isolated, Brian?
Yeah, more so going out the back. It's they are losing a lot of numbers, Slovenia. I know they started with 9 riders, but already losing a lot of riders. I know that Doman Novak is at the front for Pogacar, but looking beyond that, Primož Roglic, I would suspect, would be here, not that far away, and there he is. So we go from 9 Slovenians to 3 in quick order, because we lost Nisgets, Glevar, and of course Mohoric on this climb. So there's a lot of teams losing riders on this climb. As we get further up, it starts to get a lot tougher. And now we see a reaction. Pogacar has decided to go on the Mount Kigali, taking with him Evenepoel, Ayuso, Jan Christian, Kian Utebrooks. So he went with about 80 or just under 80 kilometres to go last year to win the title, and he's now going with 104 kilometres to go to the finishing line.
And there's more, and Evenepoel looks like he's in trouble. Look at this, he's going backwards. I don't know if he's just drifting to the back at the moment, preserving his energies and just getting the numbers right to be able to cope with this test. It's the biggest test so far, and he's gone. Oh my goodness, what a statement. And boom, there goes the Olympic champion off the back. That has left life to Utebrooks, who now charges in, and Evenepoel is being wound in and passed indeed by so many. Del Toro goes by him right now. Evenepoel in trouble. Perfect move by Tadej Pogacar, but he burned down his own team apart from anything else. Lots of sacrifice. There's Primož Roglic staying with this group, and Primož Roglic now coming by, and Tadej Pogacar from this kind of distance. This is absolutely incredible.
Yep. He's not going in his own at the moment. He's got Juan Ayuso there, Kian Utebrooks being distanced as well. Richard Carapaz was actually coming across there. Definitely Pogacar asking questions of so many riders, and it's only Juan Ayuso that can stay with him. Julian Bernard of the original attack. It's all come back together, but will it come back together over the top of this climb? We're getting very close to the top. The Juan Ayuso from Spain is the only rider that can match and go toe-to-toe with the Slovenian rider Tadej Pogacar. But Del Toro's coming up here for Mexico. I think it will come back together, but at what damage has it done already?
Huge. Shelmos also goes by Evenepoel, and they're mixing it. Healy's still involved in a bit of the chase here. But Tadej Pogacar, well, you want a statement. He's gone off with Juan Ayuso right now. 2 riders extraordinarily familiar with each other. Don't forget, they are teammates at UE Team Emirates, and a brace of them together showing this kind of perseverance and form is something very, very special. They represent different countries, of course, but they have spent a lot of time in each other's pockets. Ayuso himself is leaving UE Team Emirates for Little Trek on a big contract, but nonetheless, I'm sure some affections and certainly knowledge of each other rest. But what sort of gap and how much do they want to indeed maintain it? Where on earth is Remco Evenepoel is the big question. The camera looking back, and there's so many riders have passed by him, and here he is, part of a trio that have been disengaged. Chris Juul-Jensen is with him. Evenepoel is our time trial world champion, but it looks like this is too much, and he's pointing to the back here. I don't know whether he's actually indicating he's got some kind of technical problem, but on the descent, Ayuso, a brilliant descender in the company of Tadej Pogačar, and they have flown the coop, Brian.
Yeah, they are. It's whether anybody can come back. Del Toro's on their case. I think Del Toro will come back. Juan Ayuso for Spain at the front here. Just watch the corner there. That's Del Toro coming across. 3 riders that ride for the same trade team, but we know from the Vuelta that Tadej Pogačar said openly after it was announced that Juan Ayuso was leaving the team that he wished that Juan Ayuso would leave the race. He didn't. He went to the end. Now we're seeing 3 trade teammates riding for different countries coming together at the front of this race.
So, any love lost between Ayuso and Pogačar? Let's wait and see. The pair of them, they're going to have company, yet familiar company. Del Toro has got to do it all on his own, the young Mexican. Not many teammates around him. Tadej Pogačar now all isolated, save for, of course, his former trade teammate with Juan Ayuso. And now Del Toro comes up to join the fun as well. 3 from UE Team Emirates. If ever there was a doubt what was the strongest team in the world at the moment, you're looking at it. Pogačar, Ayuso, Del Toro, the 3 amigos.
Yep, they are. There was 11 of the UE Team Emirates started. Pogačar just looks back there, he sees Del Toro. Quick word between both of them. No word between himself and Ayuso, of course. As you say, no love lost between them, but they will ride, and they will ride trying to come to the finish. It's what's really happening behind it I'm interested in. We've got a long descent back towards the circuit in Kigali that we left. We've got another 6 circuits of that, but this is a chase group out the back of the other group. This is Evenepoel, you've got Honoré, you've got many riders here trying to come back, but this was the rider that tried to come across, Richard Carapaz. He tried to come across over the top of the climb. It wasn't meant to be, but this is the chase group now, and just looking, Primož Roglic is here, Jai Hindley is here, there's a lot of strong riders in here, Skelmos as well.
Mike Stora is part of that chasing group as well. Meanwhile, Tadej Pogačar, don't know what the word was exchanged between himself and Del Toro, but I think Del Toro essentially was going to go and take the head, force Ayuso to chase on. This serves very well, I've got to say, Tadej Pogačar. If there is a sense that Del Toro is working for Pogačar, they remain teammates, don't forget. Juan Ayuso forced out of the team, not happy. Meanwhile, look at those who are trying to bridge. This is turning out to be one hell of a day. We thought this might be an action point. We were hoping it would be, and it's turned out to be exactly that. All hell has broken loose, and we're now heading back to our familiar circuit. We've got 3 up the road. We've got some high-quality riders chasing into it. Here's the Mur de Kigali cobble section. It's not part of our standard circuit, but my goodness, this is a grind. And at the moment, they are working over Ayuso. This is Pogačar and Del Toro, Mexico and Slovenia, trying to stick it to Spain and Juan Ayuso, the man who's leaving their combined trade team to go elsewhere to Little Trek. Meanwhile, a little guy with a big heart is Carapaz pitching in, and guess what? Tom Pidcock is here in the vanguard. He's on board with this chase group, which of course includes Remco Evenepoel. That's divorced now. Let us wait and see. Group 3, that is the Evenepoel group. Still at a margin of 36 seconds. Good to see that Tom Pidcock is in there. But look at this, it's blown apart, and it's the pair that have gone off and up the front, and Ayuso has been found out here because Del Toro and Pogačar, 2 riders that work together and work over the entire field by the looks of things. Can they push on? My goodness, they've suddenly detonated the race. They know each other extremely well. They share a trade team. They represent different nations. It'll be one of those flags by the look of it, if they have anything to do with it, that gets raised today. The defending world champion, Tadej Pogačar, and I'm afraid that Ayuso is tied up. Has he blown up? That's the question. And here comes a whole phalanx of hopefuls, including Remco Evenepoel, trying to get back in. I'm just having a look and seeing if he's part of this group. There's a modest gap right now. This is a regathering, if you like, of some of the greats. Healy comes through with Evenepoel's teammate. Still, we wait for sight of him and that group that also includes Tom Pidcock. What a day, what drama.
Yeah, absolutely. The crowd is excited at side of the road. We're excited, and you know, it's kicking off right in front of a fabulous crowd in the Mur de Kigali. Riders absolutely everywhere, but I tell you what, Del Toro is flying up there. He dropped Ayuso. Pogacar was able to stay with them. There's still a lot of riders in contention, but it's how many teammates they've got that can help them come back to the front of this race.
It's a massive call to go this far out. We saw the words exchanged between Del Toro and Pogacar, and they've worked over Ayuso good and proper. He's not finished yet, Ayuso, and I'll be bound that Evenepoel isn't either, but you know, these margins that possibly get magnified when we get onto our circuit at the end of today. And look how strung out things are, Brian. Everyone's going to feel it today. They're going to have their nose in the wind. Pogacar has a bit of payback here for Del Toro, though I'm sure it's only to reignite his fire in his belly. Do you remember what Del Toro said at the beginning of the day when asked the question, what if it comes down to the two of you? What was his answer?
Man against man, and that's what it is, and I think that's what it's going to be. But I think there is a bit of communication between Del Toro and Pogacar, a lot of mutual respect as well, and this is the perfect combination for them. They have 36 seconds on the Evenepoel group, and I think he's coming back to the group in front. It's all about numbers and teammates now. I don't think it's quite over yet, but this is a formidable duo. Pogacar on form, and he said he was, both mentally and physically. Del Toro, well, we know what sort of form he's on. It's what's going to happen behind. The French with Sivakov here, Pari-Pantra, Healy, if they all ride, and I said that yesterday in the women's race, if they ride, they can come back. If they don't, then they're not coming back.
Let's see. Time for some sustenance here. This is Primož Roglic just getting a gel down. He knows that he can actually stay and almost have a magic carpet ride amongst this rather urgent group that need to get themselves back into the fray. The problem is that the margin is growing. It's 38 seconds right now, and it kind of feels that it might just continue to swell. So between Isaac Del Toro, who really should have won the Giro d'Italia, but just won about everything else he took on beyond that into this part of the season, could he take a world championship title on behalf of Mexico? Can you imagine that? Tadej Pogacar, of course, our defending world champion, he's going to want to keep hold of those rainbow stripes. There's not going to be any gifts between the pair of them, but they've offered up assistance to each other. They know each other extraordinarily well. Normally, Del Toro works for Tadej Pogacar and will do whatever he requires. This is a slightly different scenario, and they may well sprint each other for the finale. I reckon it's probably going to be worked out earlier than that. One or other will thrive today, and the money has to be on Pogacar.
Yeah, I think so. He is a favourite because these riders have been found out a little bit. They are getting their act together. Young Christian there, Skelmos, Sivakov, Ayuso starting to ride. I don't know what happened to Ayuso. He did look good in the Mount Kigali. It was in the Mur that he just lost a little bit. But they are riding Sivakov. This is the third group here. They're only, just over 12 seconds behind, led by Belgium. Tom Pidcock is in here, Michael Storer. You can see Baggioli. Michael Matthews is actually at the back of this group, but 45 seconds. These two, with 95 to go, they can go to the end. The two riders that are on form. It really all depends on the combination of the nations behind. I still believe that if these guys all ride together, they've got a chance. But just as I say that, Jai Hindley comes to the front, Ciccone, and at this stage, Carlton, you've not got a lot left, and you're trying to recover after those couple of climbs in quick succession. You know what's coming. and you're trying to kind of hide at the back. It's not about hiding now. It's about trying to come back to the front of the race with Del Toro and Pogacar. But such as bike racing at the moment, there's a few passengers in here.
There is, of course, already a factor that we have to recognise, and that is just how much of the day we have already had. 172 kilometres, and it's been full-on racing. We've been on a circuit which kind of sometimes hides the effort, but every single time they've come to the climbs, the cobbled climbs that we've been dealing with as well. Not this loop, you understand, but indeed our circuit, which we're just about to rejoin, and indeed complete or indeed begin lap 10 of the 15 or 16 that make up this day. And then you've got to finish the job. And at the moment, on the ropes are just about everybody except for Tadej Pogacar and Isaac Del Toro. They are clear by a margin of 48 seconds. The big chase being invoked right now. Primož Roglic is part of that group but won't be doing any work because Tadej Pogacar, his fellow Slovenian, is up the road. And here he is in the bright green of Slovenia. Only one left, teammates-wise. For Pogacar, it might actually swell a little bit because there's a secondary group, including Remco Evenepoel, the likes of Tom Pidcock, Tiemann Arendsman as well, starting very much at the forefront of our thoughts at the beginning of the day. That other group with a margin of around about 14 seconds, possibly less than that right now, 12 as you see it's come down to. Roglic, Hindley, Ayuso, Carapaz, Matthews, Mark Hershey, who blows hot and cold, but it could be a hot day for him, let's see. Ben Healy, Tom Squinch. I'm actually, though, starting to wonder, and there'll be a few of you out there as well, whether all those, plus Sivakov, Seixas, Judenbernau as part of the original breakaway, whether they've got what it takes to close a gap on one of the greatest riders there has ever been, Tadej Pogacar, and what one of the greatest riders that potentially ever will be in Isaac Del Toro. Two amazing talents up the road, clear of a high-quality chase group that can't close the gap at the moment. They're amazing. It's up to 48 seconds now, and we're back on our familiar circuit. And for these guys, Brian, it's just a question of getting into the zone, staying together, maybe duking it out mano a mano for the last time of asking. I don't think Pogacar will want the company of Del Toro. I think he'll take the bell alone, but let us wait and see. The story is about to be told.
I think he welcomes the Del Toros there. There seems to be good communication with them.
I think he'll go on the
And I think being on your own, it's going to be very difficult. What I think should happen here is the two groups should come together here. More numbers, more teammates. This is Tejada here going for Colombia. Maybe not the best thing to do at this moment. I think with these two groups, they come together, then I think there's numbers here. There's definitely numbers here for Belgium, and I think Australia as well have got numbers for sure. Italy have got a few riders in here as well. So these two groups come together, which they have at the bottom of the cobbled climb. This, once they go over the top of this, then they have to get organised and keep this gap down if we get any chance of coming back to the front of this race. But there's a few nations here with numbers. Ben Healy's on the front, but this is where experience, communication comes into play, because if these nations don't get organised, then this gap could go over a minute very, very quickly.
But Brian, we both know it's extraordinarily difficult to organise yourself into a cohesive force. There's no radios. It has to come down almost to instinct and professional expectations. And you don't know the limits of that have been reached by those around you either. And so it's a difficult thing to form a fighting force. Healy's doing his best to encourage others by leading by example, but sometimes you can burn yourself down by doing exactly that. You have to finesse the day in a certain way, unless you're these two, where you just brutalise it.
Well, they're committed, just like Pogacar committed last year from way out. We were seeing a lot of his teammates getting distanced on the Mont Kigali, and that meant that Pogacar was the only really one big teammate left, and that was Roglic. He's in this chasing group, so I think this was definitely a plan. There's a few people were caught out, but this is not a case of attacking here. This is about getting organised, and it's very difficult they're in panic mode at the moment. There's Del Toro and Pogacar, the favourites in front. They should be trying to get organised more than anything else, and they aren't.
Well, there's a swelling, maybe a cohesion. We'll wait and see to see who can possibly do some damage a little bit later on. Tom Peacock still at the back. Of this group, doesn't look like he's had the best of days form-wise for Del Toro and results-wise for Tadej Pogacar up ahead of them. How are they going to get caught, Brian?
If they get organised behind, if they don't get organised, then it's game over. These two are the strongest riders in the break. That's why they're in front. This is a team in Arensman here. They've got Mollema, but look at the difference. Arensman, double stage winner in the Tour de France, deserved that, but Mollema just is at the back now. They're experienced riders, but they have to start communicating the different nations to get organised, and it doesn't look as if they're organised at all.
Italy have got themselves together. They're trying to bring Ciccone up to a decent place. 6 laps to go, and it's Tadej Pogacar that spears the line ahead of Isaac Del Toro. And they're kind of looking at each other at the moment. And Ben Healy just launches. He goes over to the side of the road. Now, this is where the dogged determination of this terrier-like athlete can actually pay some dividends. He's worth following. If you've got the legs, try and get on his case. Ciccone wants and has got a little bit of assistance to try and slingshot himself up the road. There'll be others from France, notably, as well, that want to be part of this. And here we go. Ben Healy. He's the first really to start to put those electric cables together and power up a belief, really, including Evenepoel from this front group. He needs a smaller group than this, Brian. There's going to be too many passengers, but he needs an effective fighting force to come and join him and try and close this gap.
Well, the only passion that should be Carlton is Primož Roglic. Everybody else should be, doing a little bit, getting their teammates to do a little bit as well, and that doesn't seem to be happening. So while these two are at front at 46 seconds, that there aren't nations with numbers. And did you see that before, where Remco Evenepoel was bouncing in his back wheel, thinking he might have a slow? That might have been the case. So he's decided to come into the pits area and organise that bike change.
A swift one, takes off his meter, goes for it. Looks like no number on this steed. He's off and underway. He did a little bounce check as well, just to make sure that all was well. But maybe that was it. Let's wait and see. Let's see what he's got left. He looks supremely dialed in. Takes some ice here just to cool down, maybe cool the nerves as well. Gets back onto the back of this group. That's Utebrooks that has launched a bottle, nearly took Evenepoel out as he tries to get through. Meanwhile, Italy spark into action. This is great to see. Is Ciccone not that far away from the nose? Whereabouts is France? That's the other question as well. And Australia. Lots of great nations here that could do something.
Yeah, this is what they have to do. I think it was Michael Matthews that came up to the front there and started to ride. Look at the size of the group. We have got 34 riders in that chase group. There's nations there with multiples. They have to get organised. Otherwise they're racing for the bronze medal today. So we're starting to see Australia, starting to see Italy, but like you say, where's France? Belgium will get numbers, but they're waiting for Evenepoel to come back. There is enough numbers in here. The only passenger, I say it again, should be Roglic, because Mexico haven't got anybody here. Slovenia have got Roglic. Everybody else, if they want to win this race, then they have to contribute.
Tadej Pogacar. Don't worry too much about that moisture. It's not sweat or spittle. It's actually the melting ice coming down from that little pack he's got between his shoulder blades. So a nylon sock essentially filled with crushed ice, which melts slowly, and cool water drops between the anterior and exterior jugular on either side of the neck. Meanwhile, looking at this group on the downhill section and wanting to play the game, it's great to see Michael Matthews actually back in the zone, and he's here on the back wheel of Primož Roglic, possibly issuing a few snatched phrases as well. Australia, Jai Hindley, Jay Vine as well, also part of the group. Meanwhile, you look further back here, and they're assembling, but is it only for bronze? That's the big question, Brian.
At the moment, I would say no. There is enough numbers in here to get some sort of chase organised, but just as I say that, they start fanning across the road and trying to chat to each other. You can see here that they're having a word. They have to commit. Jay Vine is coming up. They're trying to talk to, I think, Baggioli there. They're trying to get organised. Frigo comes up. There is enough numbers. If Frigo, Jay Vine, Matthews, Baggioli, Storer's coming up. There's enough numbers in it. And Belgium have got a few riders in here as well. If they commit to this, then they're still within a shout. But definitely the two strongest riders are in front. But they have to combine, get organised behind to bring them back if they can do it in the next 6 laps.
Those 6 laps may well fly by. Let's wait and see. This is the Mur de Kigali, and still the party. We've already dealt with this, don't forget, but some of these riders are going to find themselves way down by the time the gap. I think by the time they get to the circuit, so a lot of riders have been cast asunder. Meanwhile, casting the die, has it been cast by Tadej Pogačar and Isaac Del Toro? Looking behind, let's go through. And still the attrition rate. This is Domen Novak, who's done a job. Tadej Pogačar burnt his own team down. They did a great job of holding everything within range until he got to the point where he was going to allow himself to go for it. Ayuso sparked up, went with him. Isaac Del Toro had allowed his own teammates from Mexico of Freya and Ruvalcaba to empty themselves. An empty day as well, I'm afraid, for Egan Bernal. Here he is, having a bit of a chat in the pits area. Not going to be for that Colombian. And in fact, it's Harold Tejado who's the last of the Colombians out there. We have Richard Carapaz of Ecuador. He's part of this group, and when you hear these names like that, like those two, like the likes of Leknesund, Hershey, who's still very busy for Switzerland, Juan Ayuso, of course, I want to see what he's got left. Carlos Canal, his teammate, at least he's got a teammate. Jay Vine, Michael Storer, Michael Matthews, Jai Hindley. That's a big, big fighting force from Australia that have kept themselves together. Likewise from Italy, we have Baggioli, Ciccone, Frigo and Garofoli. Tom Pidcock, the sole Brit, remained within this group. Looked a bit second-hand earlier on today, hoping that he can dig deep into the resources, and it's more than just a bronze medal later on. But as Belgium and Australia form themselves into a good fighting group, they also joined here by Italy, and everyone's getting the taste now for a drive for home. Who else is represented up front? Gibi Chabier, one of the last of the Africans here, which is fantastic to see him thriving out front, but nobody more so than Tadej Pogačar and Isaac Del Toro. The Danes with Honoré and Chelmos. We mentioned Italy with Baggioli, Frigo, Ciccone and Garofoli. Utebrechts, Hermans, Evenepoel for Belgium. And it looks like they may have been put to the sword. 51 seconds. And this is where this pair, who know each other instinctively from, of course, their team, UE Team Emirates, they are serving different nations today, but they could serve up an amazing 1-2 for their trades team and ultimately bring medals to both Slovenia and to Mexico. What colour will each of them secure? And indeed, are we preempting matters? Because the gap is down now to 49 seconds. I still believe that either one of these could win the day, even if it all comes back together. Such is the strength they've shown, Brian.
Yeah, it really depends on what happens behind, but we're talking about the quiet riders being from Italy. They've got 4 riders in this chase group, and they rightly should be committing. You're talking about the Aussies having 4 riders as well. They've got Hindley, Matthews, Storer and Vine. Of course, there can only be one winner. You can't kind of hold back. If you don't bring Del Toro and Pogacar back, then you're right for bronze. That's as simple as that. There's enough numbers in here, even for the Swiss of Christian and Hersey. So 2. Norway have Legnesund and Svenstadt, so they have 2. But there's a lot of riders in here with just on their own. But even if they sit on the back and don't kind of contribute a lot, then they're hiding to nothing. So you've got 2 riders from the Netherlands, 3 from France. They have been doing a little bit of riding, but not for the moment. Belgium, well, they've got 3 riders, but they're committing Quinten Hermans. So you can see the Dutch sitting back there. Look, if you don't bring the 2 riders in front and back, then you've got absolutely nothing to play for. You're going for bronze.
I am waiting to see what Sivakov does. He's on fantastic form coming out of the circuit racing that we've enjoyed in Canada as well. So one of the nearest, essentially, to those who have been busy and had great success. Australia have got manpower here, but how can they use it? Jay Vine's just taking himself a comfort break at the side of the road. I don't think he'd pulled the pin. He'd done we should wait and see, of course. Nothing is certain. And in fact, this does not look like a comfort break. This looks like day done for Jay Vine. Is it more serious than that? He's taking a relaxed toot on the bidon. I think he's called it a day. I don't think he wants to drive into his teammates, potentially. Maybe that's a factor, maybe not. But he's done a lot of work as Jay Vine. He's had a phenomenally successful season. Maybe he's going to leave it to Michael Storer, Michael Matthews and Jai Hindley to deliver the job. You can't all take time and indeed take respite and offer yourself up something later on. And Jay Vine, I don't think, is going to be a feature at the pointy end today.
No, which is disappointing for Australia. They did have 4 riders in there, now they've got 3, and I think they needed all 4 riders. The gap's still holding at just over 40 seconds, and that was a really difficult part. Now we see Michael Matthews down, so as soon as I say they've got 4 riders, 3, now down to 2 riders. There's a lot of tired legs in here in the chase already. You can see that Switzerland aren't doing any chasing either with Jan Christian and Mark Hirschi. If you leave it all up to the Belgians, this is Quinten Hermans at the front. They aren't coming back, I don't think. Evney Paul, well, he's sitting second place now. Quinten Hermans is not going to bring this group back. So I think a little bit like in many other races, once the kind of stronger riders, the duo in front have gone, then who else is going to do the chasing? Tom Pidcock is in his on, so he can't rely on anybody to help. So it's a case of either you communicate with the other good riders in here and try and combine, because one thing you cannot rely on is your teammates, because they're dropping like flies.
They are. You don't know the efficacy of what's left in the tank of those amongst you. Tom Pidcock picking it up. You see Carapaz as well in that chase group, just making himself known. But as Brian says, you can't work over the Belgians because you'll end up working over yourselves. Every great dish has a number of ingredients, and they're going to have to bring those together if they're going to, I guess, produce the cake at the end of the day and maybe eat it. Let's wait and see. Tadej Pogacar, Isaac Del Toro, they're the ones out front. They're the ones playing the game here in this magnificent country. We're back on the circuit, all familiar. That was a lovely little sojourn, great atmosphere as well, and huge drama, Brian. It's defined the day. We thought it might.
It's incredible, and you can see Mohoric and Co. They've done the work today. This is going to, and I know we've got 80 kilometres to go. It was this moment that last year Pogacar decided to go, but thumbs up from the Slovenians there. this is going so well for them. Del Toro is almost a perfect rider for Pogacar to have there. Trade teammate and someone that's got really good form at the moment. And you know, there's no combinations, no nothing. You get two Dutch here, Mollema and Armsman, just sitting on. You get Ayuso's on his own for Spain. You get so many individual riders here. Belgium have got their whole team at the front here. Hermans, Kino to Brooks and Evenepoel. But just look at everybody else just sitting back. Belgium are not bringing back Del Toro and Pogacar. I'm saying that as a fact. They are not bringing the two riders back in front. So that means that for all the other nations, and even Tom Pidcock, if Tom Pidcock wants to win, he has to start to talk to the other riders round about and say, look, if I ride, will you ride? But there's teams in here. Italy, where have they gone?
Yeah.
Italy, I've got 4 riders in here. Yes, they're sitting back and allowing Belgium to lose second after second after second.
54 seconds it is now, and no help at all for Belgium. I'm actually wondering who's got the legs to help. We've seen some brave efforts as well. Wonderful kick by Ben Healy, which kind of illuminated a desire to chase on. We had a big coming together. What have we got? 30 riders, that kind of margin within the chase. But the numbers are starting to dissipate. Italy themselves, dare I think that they are back up to full strength, more or less. I think there's 5 Italians here. Baggioli, Ciccone, Frigo, Masnada, Garofoli. What are they doing? Maybe they haven't got the legs. It's as simple as that, Brian.
Masnada's not here.
Are you not there? Beg your pardon.
No.
But nonetheless, my screens are just out of shape at the moment. But
yeah, I think Pro Cycling Stats are saying Manaz, there's not there. It's the riders that are there for Italy: Baggioli, Ciccone, Frigo, and Garofoli. But you're just looking here, looking at.
Wow, he put so much into this. And so put so much into this. And so almost by default, Tadej Pogacar is now going to be forced to have to go.
Nope.
Now, let's see. Is he still waiting up for him? Offering up a wheel. This offers up an opportunity. Right, watch the clock. 53 seconds. Will it come back down? Portugal kicking on into the gap here. It's Ulao that wants to be part of this. And Del Toro gets back on. Young man, don't forget, very much so. He's only 21 years of age. And he's now back onto Tadej Pogacar, his trade teammate. Can he believe and stay with? If he's suffering now, he may suffer again really, really significantly later on. Are they calling for sustenance from the neutral? Maybe he's just had a hunger knock. I don't know. Could be a misfeed. It's a very, very, very long day, this, don't forget. We're approaching 200 kilometres completed. There's 190 done, and a lot will get found out at this kind of distance. And dare I suggest, particularly a young man, of which, of course, Del Toro is. And he's riding amongst the seniors. He could have been in the under-23s. He's 21 years of age, but because of his professional status, he has to race with the big boys. Maybe he's being found out. Evenepoel, certainly. He's let his nerves start to fray. He's not happy with the bike. He's not happy with the situation. I don't think he's going to be happy with the result because, quite frankly, the world time trial champion is in all kinds of bother. There are other riders here as well starting to struggle. What an amazing day.
Yeah, it's just when you thought everything was set, you know, Evenepoel asking for his team car as well. Jai Hindley coming up there. Eulalio was the rider from Portugal that was trying to do something. I just don't understand why. And they're not going to go across the two in front if they try and do it on their own. They need help. They need to get organised. And organised is not what they're doing.
No, I'm afraid not. But let us wait and see. Some that we thought were tailed off. Kevin Vermaak is still here, the American, but hanging just a little bit. Remco Evenepoel is absolutely livid. That can work for you. It can also very much work against you if it's a distraction. You can use the anger to push yourself to the absolute limit, but at the moment it seems that it's his equipment that is letting him down at the moment. Even if that is perceived or real, it's still an impact. Remco Evenepoel is losing his rag, Brian.
Yeah, he is. Nothing's going right for him at all. As he's putting his hand up for the team car for assistance, and it just doesn't look good for Evenepoel at all. Kieran Uterbrooks is down towards the back on the ray, just in front. There's a lot of riders just kind of hanging on here.
Look, he's still shoving the bike around. He's getting very animated here. He's trying to send messages via the television screen as well. Now, those around him, he looked a lot fresher than Charlie Uterbrooks, that is for sure. Pidcock still very much as part of this group. Ben Healy as well. Is he going to have another go? And Ben Healy does. He drifts to the centre of the road, and it's a question of catch me if you can. Chelmers will try and stay with him. Who else has got any kind of legs to try and be involved at the pointy end of today? If Ben Healy's racing for bronze, could he possibly race for more? Oh, and to the side of the road goes Remco Evenepoel, and everyone's screaming by him at the moment. He's screaming oaths into the sky, I'm afraid, and he puts himself to the side of the road, takes off the power meter he's just beaten the hell out of, and indeed now he will wait to indeed get a new steed here. In fact, is he leaving everything behind? Come on, out of my way, I need my bike, he says, and maybe the one that he handed over before. Desperate times for Remco Evenepoel, and he's seeing his hopes go up the road.
Yeah, game over, you have to think, for Belgium, unfortunately.
Oh, good Lord.
I feel for the team now. I don't know what happened to the bike, what problems he had. These two have got no problems, apart from Del Toro. They were asking for assistance there, and the Shimano Nutrition Service came up and offered them a bottle. They don't want a bottle, they want nutrition, food, as you already said, Carlton. And having Pogacar there and waiting Del Toro, saying to him, because if you can remember last year in Zurich, Pogacar went through a similar thing. He went through a little bit of a difficult period, and he's trying to help Del Toro through that period.
Well, you know, a silver medal is something absolutely magnificent, especially if it's with your trade teammate, I guess you might say. But Tony Pogacar, I think he needs Del Toro for a little bit of emotional support apart from anything else. It's still a long way to go, don't forget. 5 laps remaining. But it looks like they have a margin that nobody is capable of closing. And indeed, those that are finding themselves in trouble, including Remco Evenepoel, who's got a technical issue. Mark Hirschi coming through. Part of the Swiss push with Jan Christen as part of the front group. Evenepoel shaking the head, and the shoulders of down, Brian. That is not the pace of a man who's getting himself back in. The bike should be okay now, but he's not.
No, the positive thing is Remco's already got a gold medal from the time trial, so he's got something from these championships. Ben Herman's sent back to help out. Garofoli's there. We asked where were the Italians, because they had numbers, and everybody's in the back foot now, and you know, with the gap going up the whole time to the duo in front. And as you say, and we said it at the time, that Pogacar, he was waiting. He wants Del Toro to be there. Mexico have never medalled in the elite men's world championships. Artem, nice to see him up there in the neutral colours. But Jai Hindley going on the attack there, it just goes to show that no one is prepared to ride.
I think
these guys are racing for bronze now.
Yeah, essentially. And every time that they go, Brian, they're wanting company. I'm not quite sure they like the complexion of who it is that comes to join them, but I think we might get a separate battle for, indeed, a bronze medal. It might be something more than that, something more precious, because 38 seconds is the gap at the moment, but it's going to have to take. But who's got anything left? I think even if you have numbers and teammates around you, they're all empty.
No, they're not using their teammates. Like we
Survival,
said before, it's, you know, even some of the teammates have been dropped now, and just a shake of the head before from Evenepoel, and he's got some mojo back. He's trying again, whether he can come back or not. But yeah, Honoré, Sivakov and Ben Healy are trying to go down the road, but I think it's a little bit a hiding to nothing now, because we saw it in the women's race yesterday. Everybody behind the leaders, they don't want to help each other. These two are helping each other and getting the benefit from that.
Well, let's see if they ultimately help themselves, shall we, to something very special. Here is the chase. Honoré, Sivakov, Healy, 3 of the pre-race favourites to do something special. Let's wait and see. Certainly as part of our thoughts going forward. And this is a very, very good unit. Now, whether they're good enough to close down 40 seconds, they've got 72 kilometres to do it. And normally we wouldn't even be pondering the question, but Tadej Pogačar is up front, and we know about his incredible abilities, especially in circumstances such as this. He goes from distance. He might have a knock. He'll be aware of that, having had to go back and almost carry Isaac Del Toro off that last climb. We've got moisture around. Some of it, the road looks like we may have had a little shower has come through here, but we haven't seen any falling rain. But we've seen this man falling down the order, I'm afraid.
I got a message on the course. Someone on the course messaged me just when we were out the Mount Kigali. They messaged me to say that there was some
drizzle.
Raindrops coming down.
Yeah, we've seen it on the camera lens. I was wondering whether it was just a splashed bidon. But here we go. Tuck in, get ready. Tadej Pogačar could be going on one of his famous missions here, and rainbow bands are at the end of the road. But on the case, and others starting to join the fray. Giant Hindley has been very, very busy. He's got to do something if he wants to be part of a battle for any kind of medal. At the moment, Andrei Sivakov and Ben Healy. Sivakov, a terrific classics man, and we're getting into classics distance already. 71 kilometres then of the day remaining. We're at 196 kilometres completed, Brian. That's an awful long way, but there's still a lot of drama to be had, I think. But has one tale been told up the road?
Yeah, it's down to 34 seconds, and Ben Healy, Honoré, Sivakov, you know, they're trying. You've got Jai Hindley trying to come across. Looks like Mark Hirschi of Switzerland. Tom Squinch trying to come across as well. So they're not riding together behind. Although the gap has come down to 34 seconds, it's more of a case of they're racing each other behind.
Victor Campenaerts, you saw him in the pits, talking to the team. A man who, well, turns himself inside out on behalf of others. And I think Remco Evenepoel possibly been reminded of that. There's a whole team that are disappointed, just as disappointed as he is. And away he goes. It's not worth chiding him, Brian. He sets himself very, very high standards, and it's a wave of disappointment has washed over him. He's kind of got to park it to one side, because with this kind of distance, Evenepoel is 1 minute and 20. He's 89 seconds down on the leaders of the day. He's actually much closer to a medal here, and if he can wrap himself back up in the comfort of having team support here, and he's still got support around him, maybe he can produce something today.
Twice it looked as if he'd given up.
Yep.
The bike change, no, that's it. Kicking things out the way.
Yep.
And then the shake of the head coming up towards the finishing line. Something's happened, whether it's Serge Powers, the team coach in the car, has said to him, calm down.
Yep.
There's a bronze medal up for grabs here.
Yep.
Don't give up now.
Quite right. And that's the way it should be. You win a bronze medal, Brian. You don't lose anything by winning bronze. It is a very, very high grade reward for a big day, and Evenepoel is not out of that game yet.
Well, what I would say at this point is look at the work that your team has done today.
Exactly right, that is what I was saying.
They've taken it on,
yep.
Right? And you're giving up.
Yep.
Right? Just because you're getting these couple of mechanicals, you're giving up. Don't.
It's precisely what I just
said.
said. Yeah.
Go on.
Exactly. Double down, get on with it, snap out of it, do your job. You're a quality rider, do it. Show us. And he is going to, I think. Let's wait and see. At the moment, he's 84 seconds off the lead, but much closer at hand, about 50 seconds from that chase group, the trio of Honoré, Sivakov and Healy. So, fully engaged and ready to deliver some vim and vigour, and Remco Evenepoel is powering back in. It looks like he's got the belief back, and he's with some quality riders here who will also want something out of the day, unless they start leaning on him, in which case they might all grab some dry sand and it'll crumble to nothing. The harder you grab it, the less effective indeed your grip remains. Here it is. Well, he's sailing through the cars. Looks like he's up for it, Brian, and that's good news.
Yeah, it's been such an emotional day for Evenepoel so far. Mm-hmm. You know, I hope he will get into this chase group. There is another small group just in front. You know, I think this is what he has to do. You know, he's been criticised in the past for kind of throwing the towel in and, you know, being controversial, but at the end of the day, this is the World Championships, and although he's got a gold medal, that he has to show what grit he's got in this race to try and do best by Belgium.
Catania goes, Garofoli's in the wrong group, Baggioli is in that chase group trying to just get back to Honoré Sivakov and Healy. Meanwhile, Evenepoel is coming up. He's got a teammate in Chan Udebrooks further up the road. Quentin Hermans has come back to help him out. Michael Matthews discussing what might have been, I guess, but an abandonment for him. We're seeing some of those who have abandoned, Brian, who are actually, after recovering, offering up some smiles because they know they've done a job today on behalf of their team. I think the broadest smiles are coming at the moment from Slovenia, their crew, and of course Mexico.
Yeah, we're not seeing from Mexico. I think there's a small contingent here. I would be surprised if there was anybody else. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mexican team were in the same team as the Slovenian team, put it that way.
Welcome to the table.
Well, that's what happens. When you go to World Championships, you know, when I went as a domestic rider, Robert Miller and now Pippa York wasn't in the same hotel. Sometimes you get the trade teams have their own hotel. So UE Team Emirates, I would presume, have their own set-up accommodation, because some federations have been banging on about this the whole way through the World Championship. Some federations don't have the financial backing to be able to deliver what a World Tour team can.
Look at this. They're streaking down on some of the faster sections here, and it feels like, not that the party's over, but the invitations to a very exclusive table have been issued. And that top table has two guests at the moment facing each other. But Tadej Pogačar is the man that's serving up all the dishes. And I still think that Remco Evenepoel is now thinking, you know what, to hell with it. I'm going to get on that bleep podium, and I'm going to show what I can do. And here we go, Del Toro. So there may be a silver medal up for grabs, because Isaac Del Toro, I'm afraid, has finally blown. He's a young man, only 21 years of age. I just think he's just a little bit too young for this kind of distance. Meanwhile, Tadej Pogačar has flown the coop. They've obviously had a chat. Pogačar's going to have to do it all on his own, and just short of a devil's distance, 66.5, neighbour of the beast. Away he goes. He's on his own. Anyone else, this would be an amazing challenge. Can he bring it in? Let's have a look. Wasn't a technical, I don't think, despite the fact we're looking at the wheels. How you doing? Is it going to happen? Sorry, mate, I just cannot do any more. It's the climbs, Brian. It was going to take a toll, and finally it has.
Yeah, I waited for him the first time, can't the second, unfortunately. And yeah, another medal you have to feel goes up for grabs, because I think Del Toro got involved with the kind of heat of the moment. I don't think his strategy with regards to nutrition was the best today. You know, he looked really, really good, but that's a case of a bit of a kind of hunger knock, especially when Shimano come up there and offered a bottle, and I think it was Pogačar who was trying to help him.
Yeah.
He said no to the bottle. We need nutrition, and of course, when you start to feel like that in a race like this, there's no way back.
Check this out. We have an intermingling, and it is Remco Evenepoel. You know what we said about using anger? Sometimes it can work against you if you let it defeat you, but other times you can actually work it into your advantage. And Evenepoel has clearly been reminded about what his responsibilities are. He's back to that significant group just behind Honoré Sivakov and Healy. They're about to find Del Toro. It won't be too long. I don't think they've passed him just yet, but this will spur them on, because they're going to suddenly realise that there is a silver medal now up for grabs amongst this trio. That group behind contains Evenepoel. There he is. He's just bedding himself in. He's with some quality riders here. They won't all lean on him, because I think they've finally realised that they're all going to have to work at this distance, 65 kilometres out, to get something out of the day. But what a story this will be. If Evenepoel medals, that will be an achievement in itself, no matter what the colour.
Yeah, of course. I probably said it at the start of the day, but as a former world champion, you know, what you want is to come here and win that title again. But I do feel sorry for Del Toro here. I just think strategy and his nutrition, he got it wrong today and cracked it a little bit.
Strategy, not the first time he's tripped up this year, Brian.
No, but I think that was team orders the last time. Here it was probably due to, you know, you got to remember with 3 riders in the race, you don't have your own team car, you have to rely on the support at the side of the road, and I think Pogacar was trying to help him, maybe try and get him a gel, but that wasn't the case, and Pogacar now finds himself alone at front, 53 seconds up. I think given the choice, he would have rather had Del Toro here, but now he's doing what he did. How many times have we said this year, you know, Pogacar has gone for it, he's on his own, and he did it last year in the Worlds from a little bit closer. You know, these guys went from the Mount Kigali, which was about 100 kilometres to go.
Ben Healy screens round the corner, and he's in good company here. Mikel Honore is with him, and Del Toro is about to join them. I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to this quartet. Let's wait and see if he can re-find himself. I don't know whether it is just a feed issue or whether it's something more significant. Screaming down behind them, and may well even come into camera shot in a few moments' time, as Honore, Sivakov, Del Toro now, and Ben Healy form a quartet. And there, just behind, guess who? Remco Evenepoel is charging into the gap. This is fantastic. He's got, is it Baggioli? Pidcock, certainly. This is brilliant. We have a proper battle on our hands. Has Pogacar gone too early? 54 seconds he holds. Remco Evenepoel seems to be entirely reinvigorated. His mood's in the right place. What can he do?
Yeah, it's an amazing turnaround. You think here, but I think on the flip side here, you cannot do it all on your own. No. Just when you were giving it up twice, you have to ask the questions. You've got Ciccone here for Italy, you've got Eulalio for Portugal, and Pidcock. I think the others are coming back now, but you cannot do everything. You have to think smart about this. The silver medal, bronze medal are still up for grabs. I still believe in Pogacar can hold this off. From what I see, there's nobody strong enough. They're not riding together well enough. And Evenepoel has gone from, right, I've given up, to, you know, within a chance again.
Absolutely remarkable. Evenepoel's got to believe that what happened in the time trial could indeed happen again. If it is, you know, in the mind games and in the physical sense as well, the Remco Evenepoel, he's beaten Tadej Pogacar here in Kigali. He wants to do it again. He's got 58 seconds, but more than that, he's got 62 kilometres to do it. He's had, I guess you might say, a kick of adrenaline due to the anger that has washed over him. And he's just about to get over to the Healy group here. This is absolutely remarkable from Remco Evenepoel. Pidcock's also in the frame here, don't forget. Sivakov, quality rider as well, especially in this kind of circumstance, on this kind of terrain. And here comes Evenepoel, and this is a to hell with it ride at the moment. And it's in a handcart potentially for some others. This is amazing. What a drive by Evenepoel, and he's coming straight through. And guess what? Tom Pidcock's on his wheel. Ben Healy now needs to grind in and stay with them. What a trio that would turn out to be, amongst others as well. But Tadej Pogacar, has he bitten off more than he can chew at the moment? He is chomping into the course. He's eaten up, unfortunately, the efforts and the ambitions of Isaac Del Toro. He might re-find himself, let's not forget, but he's not here where Evenepoel is. Healy is. Pidcock struggling to stay with this. This is brilliant.
Look at Evenepoel. He's not even asking for any help whatsoever. I just fear that he's trying to do it all himself. That anger, that fire in his belly is roaring, and you know, he really needs to kind of ask for help. This is the only way back for them. You can see that Pogacar, just a moment ago, he put it into the big ring there, and you know, put the power down, and you know, the gap is going up now. Pogacar against Evenepoel is not going to happen. Ben Healy's there, Skelmos. He needs all the help he can get. He cannot just do this all on his own.
Evenepoel is driving this on, but unfortunately he's driving nails into some of those behind him, including Tom Pidcock, who's just now drifting ever so slightly. Here we go. It is Tadej Pogačar beasting the course and everybody else. 58 seconds. Can he get up to a minute? He's absolutely sailing up here, but we saw in the time trial, he suddenly hit a wall, essentially. And the man who came up and papered all over the gaps and indeed set himself a beautiful victory poster was Remco Evenepoel. He's chasing at the moment. Evenepoel, Skelmos, Pidcock and Ben Healy as a quartet, but I think that's thinning down as well. Here it is. No, in fact, they are solid as a quintet right now, and Jai Hindley as part of this group that have set sail. Everybody else are now suddenly realising that it's drifting away from them. Evenepoel has got some very fine riders around him. He's got to share the duty. If he does, then others behind might well come into the fray. But he's kicking on. At the moment, it is Evenepoel versus Tadej Pogačar. Evenepoel chasing down Tadej Pogačar. Evenepoel dragging others along with him. Evenepoel needs to call for help. I'm not quite sure how much can be offered up by those who are around him. 60 kilometres to go. Others coming to try and bridge over and join the fun, but my goodness, this is hell on a plate for these guys. Royal entertainment as well as they clear the cobbles once more, and we start to enter into the last 4 laps of this race, and it will be Tadej Pogačar that spears across the start-finish line for the remainder with a margin of around about a minute. We'll get a definitive on the line. Del Toro still part of this group. Roglic coming through as well. Brave riders everywhere. Mark Hershey just coming up here as well, and Carapaz still hasn't given up the ghost. What an amazing day, but what a phenomenal ride it has been by Tadej Pogačar. But it's not over yet. 4 laps to go, and here we go.
Yeah, not over yet in come distance, but I think it's all over for the world title. I don't think this man is coming back. He showed it in the past, and I think he's showing it now. I think Evenepoel, well, I think he has to ask the question of the others, and he has now. So it's what the others have got left, really. You know, Healy, Jai Hindley, Skelmos. I don't think Skelmos is hit the front yet at all. Tom Pidcock, you can see, is in Sexas, trying to come across here. They're all over the place. Ayuso, well, he's still fighting for Spain, but I just look at the way that these guys are riding. I don't think they've got a lot left. Already, I think these guys are thinking silver and bronze. Even Pidcock just moved to the side. Healy moved to the side. They're not following on. They're leaning on Remco Evenepoel a little bit too much now, which goes to show you that I don't think they've got a lot left to do the chasing.
I think they'd help if they could at moments like this, especially with this sort of distance remaining. Look at the glisse arms here on Remco Evenepoel, and he's letting them come through, but what sort of turns are they taking? Jai Hindley almost wobbles across the line here. Now as the carnival goes on, some of the stunt riders doing their thing, but just to the side of our start-finish line, something that's been bridged here by Tadej Pogačar. Now the gap is at 1:01. There are storm clouds up ahead. That's just about the only thing that's going to stop this man. Maybe a lightning strike. But Tadej Pogačar, look how calm he looks, Brian. This is a man in control of his destiny.
Yeah, it looks super good. Look at everybody else. You know, Jai Hindley, mouth open. Evenepoel, well, it doesn't look as if he knows what's happened to him today. He's not at the best of luck, but even on the climb, the Mount Kigali, I don't think he had the legs either. So this man is on a mission. He's been on a mission ever since he became a professional cyclist, and
there we go.
I don't think anybody's bringing him back today.
Do you know, the one thing that's missing from the group that's around Remco Evenepoel is that anger, that fire in the belly, as you call it, Brian, and he is displaying it in buckets here. And I'm afraid it's Tom Pidcock that's been found out this time by. Kick-off by Remco Evenepoel again. It's like, guys, if you're not going to share the duty, I'm going to leave you behind. And he's kicked again. Healy's gone with him. Jai Hindley stays with it. Shelmos hangs on. And Tom Pidcock, by the skin of his teeth, he's got nails only on the cliff edge here as Tom Pidcock, but he's still in it. But who's going to win it? It looks like Tadej Pogačar. Finally, they all wake up to the fact that they've got to get down and get busy with Remco Evenepoel. It's no good punishing one man, because essentially then you're going to have to engage with about a quarter of the workload. If there's 5 of you, then it's 20%. Do you want 25%? Another 5% more work? That's what you've got to figure out, Brian. How you balance the work rate in a situation like this. Keep something back for yourself, naturally enough, and deal with Remco Evenepoel at the end, if indeed you all get there together.
Like, there's a lot of thought in the process here. I think everybody knows that Pogačar is in front. If I was to say, of these 5 riders, you give it absolutely everything. I think there's something in everyone if they give 100% to bring Pogačar back, but at what cost? That's what you're saying. That's they're all thinking about. Can they bring Pogačar back, make that big effort, and maybe lose out in a medal? Or is this a case of, right, we'll ride through and off, but at the back of my mind, I'm thinking of that silver and that bronze. So these 5 riders are competing against each other, irrelevant of Pogačar in front at 1 minute or 1 minute and 1 second. They want to try and kind of stay away from the others. I think the only one that's thinking about maybe trying to win this is Evenepoel. He's already won the world title. Second, third, what's that mean to him in all grand scale of things? Of course, Belgium would love to take a medal. I know that Serge Pauwels would be encouraging him to take a medal. But at the end of the day, everybody in this group of 5 have to commit 100%. And of course, you don't communicate with each other because you're in rival nations. How are you feeling? Are you okay? But I tell you what, if you're having a rough patch, I'll do more now, you do a bit later, and help each other. That's not the case in cycling, especially at this level. So what they're doing at the moment is riding through and off. Just, I'm not saying save grace, but they have to. They know they have to ride and be seen to ride, but they're not going to give 100%.
Well, threat of rain is dissipated. We're into the evening. The remaining cloud is now either dumped elsewhere or indeed been burnt off by the evening sunshine. And right now the shadows are getting very long. This has been a very long day. They've already been just over 5 hours in the saddle, Brian. This is tortuous. Some can sustain it, some can't.
I'm just trying to work out how many people are going to finish.
Wondering myself, yeah.
We might not get too many. And in fact, looking at the numbers that are still left,
I'm thinking 30, something like that.
Would you continue to ride just to finish? I think most
Top
of the riders
25,
in here.
maybe that's the time.
I think most of the riders. This within 2 minutes and 58 seconds, there are 32 riders.
There you go.
I know that when I first went to the Worlds, it was about trying to get round it. Second World Championships, I got round in 45th place, beat Sean Kelly. And I was kind of pleased at that. I could say on that day I was 45th in the world. But I don't think any of these guys here are thinking about that kind of situation. That they want to be, 30th in the world, 25th or 20th. I think the way this is split up, this race, we could see no more than 20 finish.
Let's see. Might well get to be that, especially some will get timed back. As it stands, we have 91 seconds blanketing 15, 16 riders. One rider alone up front, and he's got the biggest margin of all. He's got 1 minute and 2, and that ranges back to a different smorgasbord. This is the chase of Seixas and Juan Ayuso. Ayuso himself, well, he had his moment, but likewise with Del Toro. Ayuso now is in front of Del Toro, but only by a margin of 10 or 12 seconds. Great meandering through the plain here, this river. Oxbow Lake's about to be formed here.
I tell you what, Seixas is doing a good ride here for France.
Yes,
he's the best of the French riders here, and he won a Tour of l'Avenir recently, and he knows how to ride the World Championships at a lower level. So now the first opportunity for him to ride at this elite level, 19-year-olds. I think he's done a very good job.
Sails around here, skirts the corners, he's hitting all of the apexes. Well, the fifth hour of racing, it's been extraordinarily busy. The last hour has been amazing. When we went up and over Mount Kigali, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. Well, this man is just steam powered away by the looks of him, and it's for the chase to try and get back to him. It looks like that chance is kind of hanging by a thread at the moment. It would take an entirely different complexion to this chase group here to close this gap. They're not hanging about, Brian. Equally, they cannot afford to go all in right now with still over 50 kilometres to go. They never know whether they're going to hit their own buffers, energy-wise. And so there's got to be some preservation. And when you do that, you move further away from gold.
Exactly that. I don't think anybody's going to come out 100% here. It's a case of doing what's right, and doing what's right is do your turn at the front, swing over, let the other rider come through, because for some of these riders to get on the podium here is going to be something special for them, and there's 5 of them with only 2 other medals up for grabs. I think if they all go flat out, then they can get a lot closer to Pogacar, possibly catch him. But at the end of the day, it's about preservation and trying to get what's left in this race. Unfortunately, you know, it's a difficult to be in this group of 5, because of course you want to be in it to win it, and with a minute behind you know you can. Whether we're going to see Remco Evenepoel on the next climb really put the pressure on it and try and do something, I don't think even Remco Evenepoel can go across to Pogacar on his own.
I don't think Remco Evenepoel or anyone else within this group knows whether they can do it or not. And I think the belief, if they have any, has got to be shaken by the fact that Tadej Pogacar is just hanging out tribulations that Remco Evenepoel has gone through. I think this is the second bike swap. We saw the banging of the bars as well, the pounding of his power meter, and indeed the frustration raining down upon him. Look at that. This is, he was, by the way, a footballer. Could have represented, in fact, I think he captained the junior national team at football. Chose, of course, cycling. You often get exceptional sports people transferring within sports. We know about Primož Roglič and his winter sports credentials as a ski jumper. Right now, Remco Evenepoel has parked up the anguish and has just got on with the job, and he is the fighting force within this group. He's prepared to do most within it. He might actually get boxed out of all of the medals because of the anger that's pushing him on, maybe spurring him to put a bit too much into this cause. That would be almost a tragedy if he comes in with this group battling for silver and gets no medals at all.
Well, he's putting the pressure on, which is putting the pressure on the others. But when you look at that sequence, he had the toilet break earlier on, he had to change at the pit area, and then he was asking for support. Neutral service tried to stop, he waved him away. He kicked a bottle out the road, got his bike, shaking the head, coming up to the line. That would suggest he just like game over, but I don't know where it came from. But whatever happened in his mind is made this race a little bit more interesting for me.
Can you imagine this could be a rollaway? But because of Remco Evenepoel and his mood swings, whatever recentered him, I think it was just, come on, do it for the team. We're all here for you. You've already got one world title. Finish this job. And he has actually speared through the field. He spent more time with his nose in the wind than just about anybody else here, because Tadej Pogacar, of course, had quite a sequence of exchanges with Isaac Del Toro, not something in the gift of Remco Evenepoel, because every group he got to, he's been forced to work, Brian. He's doing it again there.
Just a moment ago he said he just went down, eased it into the big ring, got out the saddle, went, and looking at the faces of the 4 other riders behind, Remco Evenepoel is putting them in the hurt locker, and he just has to be wary, because I really do think that he's the strongest of the group of 5 there.
Easily.
And I really do think he can take the silver medal, which would be something for Belgium. Not too sure how Evenepoel would think about it after being a world champion, but he's the time trial champion, of course. He's double Olympic champion. You know, what else has he got to prove? But I think saying about what else has he got to prove, I think he's proven something to himself today, that no matter what's thrown at him, he can still turn it around in a race and perform at the highest level.
Very much so. Listen, if he comes to the Worlds and he gets a world title, so a gold and a silver, that's actually more than Tadej Pogačar. Let's not forget that. He was fourth in time trials, Tadej Pogačar.
Yep.
Remco Evenepoel can possibly, in his own mind, claim to be the best in the world if you coagulate all of the titles. And look at the riders who've been left in the wake here.
Oh, there's top riders here. This is Sivakov coming up to his young teammate now, but you know, such is the life and tribulations of professional athletes. You go through a lot of different emotions. We're talking about one-day races, and it's in the past. Sometimes we've seen Remco Evenepoel just throw his toys out, moan at riders for not doing what was expected. You know, I like that. He's definitely a character. He definitely believes in himself, plenty of confidence. But in the highest level race, the World Championships, in the moments, you could see his emotions. You could see the shaking of the head. You can see the frustration. Tadej Pogačar has had zero to contend with. Absolutely nothing, right? But to see Remco Evenepoel, these things thrown at him, he's had to jump over a few hurdles today, and he's still come out the other side fighting for a medal here.
He's jumped over hurdles throughout his career. It's almost the nature of the game, I think it's fair to say. Some of the bottle takes here leave something to be desired. No surprise, there's an awful lot of fatigue here, which affects everything. It's your juggling capabilities, which sometimes you need at moments like that. This is the group with the likes of Primož Roglic. He's just caging a bottle. Looks like they may have done their job. But this still is only a minute, you know.
Third group now, so the Sexas group with Sivakov and things like that has all come back together. So we've got, I would say, the Remco group at 1 minute and the Roglic group at 2 minutes.
Yep, exactly that. So Sexas, Sivakov and Ayuso being absorbed by the Roglic group. Meanwhile, the Evenepoel group, nobody would deny who's the lead singer of this band. There he is. He dispatches a bidon. He's got now support to get whatever he needs. But what he needs is a minute, Brian. How do you find that?
Not very easily, not against Pogačar. You're hoping that Pogačar has a difficult time, moments, and that can happen. But I just think that they are riding. The person is doing the most in this group is Evenepoel.
There's two riders here, isn't there? There's Evenepoel versus Pogačar.
Yeah, and you know that battle's been already won in my eyes. I think when he get dropped in Mount Kigali, that kind of psychological blow didn't help him. But this is unknown yourself. We heard from Pogačar, and I actually read a few things that some people were possibly kind of writing Pogačar off. He's not mentally there, he's tired, he might not be good. And then we heard the interview with him. He said mentally and physically I'm great. In fact, he said mentally I'm very good. So he's just shown us how good he is. That might have been a little bit of a blip in the all grand scale of things in the time trial. He came from Canada, he came over here. Maybe he had less time to acclimatise. He's had another week, Carrollton, to acclimatise.
He has. I'm not quite sure whether it was acclimatisation, but I tell you something, Remco Evenepoel is hoping that these 4 seconds they've just closed back down may well be reflective of what happened within the time trial. Tadej Pogačar was found out, don't forget, in the time trial. It wasn't that long ago, just last weekend. And a 2.5 minute gap was found by Remco Evenepoel over a very short distance, shorter than what we have left here. And so, if we're now in time trialing mode, and that's what Remco Evenepoel must be hoping, then something quite remarkable might happen. As it stands, Tadej Pogačar is getting all of the cheers on his own and by a margin of just over a minute. That clock can't quite decide where it wants to be. It was at 56 seconds not that long ago. It's now seated at 1:05. So it ebbs and it flows. Tadej Pogačar needs to just maintain what he's doing at the moment. Let's for 1 minute then just think that Remco Evenepoel gets over to Tadej Pogačar. If it's a 2-up sprint on the final climb, your money has to be on Pogačar.
Yeah, I think Evenepoel is getting stronger in sprint is what you've got left in the legs, but I think that scenario is not going to happen. I was just about to say when the gap was coming down, you've got to remember that if they're riding a little bit behind and the downhill, Pogačar will be taking it a little bit easier. You know, he's got this course in his mind where he can hold back a little bit, push on. He's pushing on now, and you know, come the finishing line, this could be 1:15, 1:20 by the time we get there.
Let's see, he's digging in. He's coming up through the cobbles, and it's started to fray. This is great. This is Jan Christen, I think, who's come out of the Roglic group, and there is Roglic behind him, actually wondering whether to mark this one out. I'll be bound. So he's gone off. Seychelles has been extremely lively so far today. No sign of him, I'm afraid, but he will be within that group. But good to see Jan Christen as well, suddenly thinking, well, I've got 45 kilometres here. What he's got to do is find, what, 1 minute and 10 seconds, so he'll be within a medaling group.
Yeah, he's trying to come across to them. It's one of these things in this cobble climb here, you can see them. Whether he can go across on his own is a bit of a tall order. The reason why he's in this back group is because he cannot go with the guys here. So it's a real interesting one now.
Jai's off the back. Oh, that's desperate. That's what, 20 bike lengths. That doesn't feel retrievable. Jan Christen will be finding him on the road if this carries on. So Jai Hindley shares a sponsorship with Tom Pidcock. Tom Pidcock stays with what is now a quartet, including Pidcock. Ugh, I say that. It's now a trio. Goodness me. Evenepoel doesn't want passengers. I don't think this is almost by design. His mind is further up the road, focused on this man, the big green meanie, and away he goes. And let's see, 1 minute and 8, we'll get a definitive clock as they cross the line, but it is Tadej Pogačar that will hit it first now, and the clock begins. Here we are then, Tadej today in charge all the way.
It begs the question what happened in Mount Kigali. He couldn't go with you know, the leaders over the top, Pogačar and Del Toro. Then he started kind of bouncing around. Did he have a slow then? Did that affect him? We'll only know afterwards, but he has turned it around, and you know, he's going to come up to the line over 1 minute down on Pogačar. I just thought earlier on that he just cannot just do everything. He has to ask the others for a little bit of support, but you know, he's actually killing everybody in these climbs.
He is. Pidcock staying doggedly with it. I thought momentarily there, because the foreshortening of the camera, that Ben Healy was going to go on the attack. Here comes Evenepoel. Do you know what? He's such a fantastic rider. I mean, part of his problem is the fact that Tadej Pogačar exists. Because without that, we'd be talking about him as the greatest rider on the planet. Someone like Tadej Pogačar comes along once every few lifetimes. It's been a long time since we've seen such domination, and the way he rides, not only stage races, not only world championships, but classics as well. He wants it all, and he's capable of winning it all as well, Brian.
He is. You know, there was talk about burnout, you know, after the Tour de France. I think he still has these goals in mind. I think he still would love to go back to Paris-Roubaix and try and win it, and win the Tour de France 5 times, possibly 6. He is all about, you know, records, and you know, he has to get his motivation from somewhere. But at the bottom of the climb, the gap went down to 56 seconds. At the finishing line, it went up to 107. So it just goes to show you that on the climbs, Pogacar is making a difference.
Evenepoel says, I'm out of here. If you're not going to work with me, then I'm going to work against you. And away he goes. Chelmos, Ben Healy. Tom Pidcock is disengaged by 6 or 8 seconds. We'll see whether he gets back in. There's a camera bike here, which is filming these guys. It might well offer up some kind of tunnel for Tom Pidcock to get into. Jan Christen just rounds the corner. We have Jai Hindley, also not that far in arrears, and a group that, are they thinking about a top 10? Is that good enough? Well, at the moment, that's 3 minutes down. That's going to be about the best of it, where they indeed sit within what is a very, very high-quality finishing group. Tadej Pogacar is often up front. He's got 1 minute and 3 on Evenepoel, Chelmos, Ben Healy. Tom Pidcock has just dropped 10 or 12 seconds, according to timing. We'll see whether he's back on. But Evenepoel has just been offered a turn by Healy. And it is a trio only, which means that Tom Pidcock and Jai Hindley have been trimmed off. Jan Christen in no man's land as well. Healy reaching for a gel, starting to dream about silver or bronze here. It'll be fascinating to see how these guys mix for that. Still 1 minute and 2 with 42 kilometres to go. Less than 3 laps now, Brian.
Yeah, it's an even more difficult situation. There's 3 of them. There were 5. They're still just over 1 minute down, and this man here, I think he's well in control. It might come under at 1 minute at some points because there's 3 of them behind riding. They're riding harder in the kind of easier parts of the circuit, and that's where Pogacar will possibly ease a little bit, and then when it comes to the climbs, put the pressure on. So I think Pogacar definitely has this one. Evenepoel looks the strongest, and Chelmos and Healy are a wee bit. They're trying to hold something back because they know that Evenepoel is going to power on all the climbs.
Well, blowing his cheeks out like Dizzy Gillespie. This is Tom Pidcock with his own chit-chat going on in his head. He's a fabulous open book, is Tom. When you ask him a question, he often ponders it and gives you a very, very honest answer. Sometimes you might not like it, but that's absolutely the mark of the man. He's very straight up and down. And at the moment, he's down by just over 10 seconds, I'm afraid. In fact, it's expanded. It's now 27, 28 seconds down on Evenepoel, Chelmos and Ben Healy. What a performance by Ben Healy as well. If he can medal here, that would be exceptional.
He's got every opportunity now by the looks of things. You know, we were talking about Healy as an outsider contender going from distance. Well, he never got that choice, did he? Because Pogacar decided that, well, he was losing all his teammates. It was a case of 100 kilometres to go from the top of Mount Kigali. That's a long, long way, but it's just blown this race apart. That in the Murdi Kigali, that small part of this course today just killed everybody.
What about Ayuso? How must he be feeling as well? He's made a decision, of course, to leave UAE Team Emirates. He was almost a thorn on the cactus, wasn't he? But it was ingrowing, it seemed, and it was uncomfortable for everybody. It was almost a relief to Ayuso that he found himself a contract at Lidl Trek. He'll be leaving at the end of the season. It's essentially already done. He's going to do the Worlds and then the European Championships. He will take part in Lombardia for the end. I think that will draw out his time. But for next year, he will be with Lidl Trek, and it's a long contract as well for him. Part of the problem for Ayuso, and I suspect possibly for many in UAE Team Emirates, is Tadej Pogacar. He's the man that everyone has to fall in behind. And it's almost like when the king is not at the top table, then a riot breaks out as all the dukes decide to duke it out to find out who's best behind Tadej Pogacar. It's not a pleasant environment sometimes to operate within, although highly successful. And the team, UAE Team Emirates, they gave themselves the best chance of taking as many stage wins as they possibly could. That didn't really work out for the likes of Ayuso. It was a late call, and the disquiet came to the surface during La Vuelta, and it's left with Juan Ayuso leaving the party. Same thing, incidentally, more or less happened to Primož Roglic in Visma Lease. He himself found himself rubbing up against Seb Kuss and Jonas Vingegaard in a battle for a pecking order. Roglic lost out. Seb Kuss was declared Welter champion 2 years ago, and indeed Roglic left the scene. So that's the way of it. Roglic is back here as a national support for Tadej Pogačar, and Roglic might well indeed get himself a decent finish today. He is in a chase group that is detailed at 2 minutes and 52 down. Tom Pidcock is at minute 49. You can see by the blowing out of the cheeks of Tom Pidcock that he realised his day is done. I don't think he was at his absolute best at the start. He's had a hell of a year, Tom Pidcock. Podium in the Vuelta was brilliant, and I'm not surprised that there's perhaps something missing from the tank. But at the beginning of the day, we had high hopes for him. It didn't look good, and then we started to believe. He was it was up towards the pointy end of the race. He's ebbed and flowed, but I'm afraid he has ebbed away from this chase group of 3, chasing down this man with 38, just shy of kilometres of the day remaining, and the gap is absolutely rock solid.
Yeah, he's riding at the same pace, the group behind, nothing more, nothing less. He's looking at this course and he's breaking it down. He knows where he can relax a little bit. He knows where he has to put the pressure on. And of course, with the chase behind, he doesn't really have to. He's getting table service at the top table here, and he's well in control of this one. He doesn't have to push on 100%. If the gap comes down to 45 seconds, then he'll push out a little bit. So it's all controlling at the moment, and he looks nice and relaxed, and well in control of this one. These are the 3 riders battling it out for the last 2 medals. I think Tom Pidcock, you saw him there, he kind of looked back. I think he realises that I don't think he's interested in maybe finishing 5th in the World Championships. I think he's just looking at how can I get to the finish as easy as possible. He'll be looking around to see if there's any riders coming up, and that's what sometimes happens. You don't want to be in your own. You'll look around and maybe combine with someone else to make it easier just to get round this. I can't say that there are 33 riders still in the race. The last one on the roads through the finish. I'll say that again, it's 40 now. 40 riders. Fausto Masnada is the last one across the finishing line, and more coming in. Yeah, Fausto Masnada is the 43rd rider still on the road at 9 minutes and 53 seconds.
Here we are, check it. Even gaps, and now it's 2 minutes to Tom Pidcock. That was what we were saying about the Roglic group. They're now over 3 minutes down, so it's almost minute margins. Well, he was his 2.5 minute man in the time trial, was Pogačar for Remco Evenepoel. The hope of closing this down is now just ebbed. So it looks like Pogačar, you just saw Tom Pidcock there, is at 2 minutes and 5. Unless something dramatic happens up front, I think Tom Pidcock is going to be out of the medals. But a top 5, if he was to be blessed with that, he'd probably take it. It's been an amazing season for Tom Pidcock. What about Tadej Pogačar? Well, he has some big holes in the season. He designs them in. That's not to say he doesn't go all in, and when he turns up, well, he usually wins. He won at the UAE, then went to the Strade Bianche. He won the Strade Bianche, had a blip in the San Remo, finished 3rd. Then he won Flanders, runner-up in Paris-Roubaix, runner-up in Amstel Gold Race. Then he won Flèche Wallonne. Then, of course, he won Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Goes to the Dauphiné, wins that. Goes to the Tour de France, wins that. Comes back for the GP Quebec, 29th. Goes to GP Montreal, 2nd. Comes to the time trial, misses out on the medals, and thinks, you know what, I need to just step it up on the final day. It looks like he's heading for the rainbow bands, so important to him. Something you can wear every day on the road for the rest of the season. He's loved doing it, And of course, he's worn the bands as part of the Tour de France. He reminds you so beautifully.
You talk about bands, Carlton. I think that's an elastic band he's got in the back of his jersey there. That might have catapulted him up the Mount Kigali.
Brian is, of course, joking. He's done it all himself. Meanwhile, back in the pits, time for some contemplation. Louis Verweiker is watching. Can't hear our voices coming out of his telly, and it has been a tough day for everybody. France started with some very high hopes, Brian.
Yeah, Madouas on the right-hand side, Pari Pantra there as well. It's been a real tough day for everybody, and not many people are going to finish this one, but it's where they're going to finish. Although this is a good performance from Tom Pidcock here, he's talking to Matt Bramier, the manager of the British team. He'll be wanting to know who's behind them, with 35 kilometres left, a little bit more for Tom. Of course, Matt will want him to finish well up in the placings, but having been a world champion in other disciplines, what else is there to prove? You said he's had a good season already. I would agree with that. But I think finishing fifth would be worthwhile, and I think that's what Matt Bramier is trying to say. Just keep on going, try and get the best out of this, because he's absolutely in no man's land at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, and a ball kicking on. There's a few getting a bit animated. One saying he's always going to blame someone else or something when he's lacking. He was dropped on the climb, not good enough today, the end. Well, he's picked himself up, as Remco, and I actually really enjoy his honesty to himself. He shows his emotions, Brian, but yet underneath all of that prickliness is it's like a prickly pear. It's so sweet on the inside. He's just a genuinely nice guy, is Remco Evenepoel. Has said himself, he's almost been dropped into greatness. I think sometimes expectation levels are absolutely enormous, and he bears it well. Inside there's a really nice guy who turns himself into a predator, and he suffers, I think, the brickbats that a professional sporting life can actually offer up to you on occasion. And he lets his emotions come through. And how nice is that to see? We don't want to watch robots, Brian. And for him to come through and be in a potential medaling position, if he gets silver, that will be an amazing achievement considering the ill fortune that he's had today.
Well, his former sport was football. I'm not saying he's going to score the winning goal today, but I think what he's done today is shown us that no matter where you are in sports, that if everything is going against you, you have to keep on going, keep on trying, and hopefully the tide will turn, and it has turned. Okay, he's not going to be winning the race today, but to go through what he has gone through in quick succession, getting dropped, that doesn't help. And then having the mechanical, changing the bike, having to wait for the bike, the car not being quick enough there because of the different groups when it was all kind of kicking off. It just happened at the wrong time. The shaking of the head, just everything wasn't going his way. But somewhere, whether it was from the car or from the side of the road or within, he's turned it around, and that's kind of testament to a true champion. When everything's going against you, you get bounce up, shake yourself down, and focus again and what the goal is. The goal is obviously for everybody to try and win the world title, even for Evenepoel, but he's gone down fighting today, and he's going to try and get a medal, and I still believe by the looks of things he could be getting silver.
That would be truly amazing. He's up against very accomplished Matty Stelmores. We'll see whether Ben Healy's got something left in the tank. We always say that about Ben Healy. He can quite often look slightly ragged, and you think surely he's on the absolute limit. And then he produces some magic. There's still a minute, and by our old rule of thumb, that should be closable, especially with 3 chasing 1, and 32 kilometres to go. But that one, where's number one? And he has been just about in every race he's taken part in. It's Tadej Pogačar. Brian, you just can't catch him. We believe in this gap, and we believe it might well be sustained, possibly even extended. He may well take some time to celebrate at the end of the day. Unless something strange happens, and I hope that that is not the case. You can chuck a chain at any moment, you can suffer a puncture, you can get the hunger knock as well, which we have seen. And this man will be cueing the Jaws music if indeed anything happens to Tadej Pogačar. Wouldn't wish it upon him. He's an amazing rider. Some people say that, and I often get asked, isn't it a shame that Tadej Pogačar is dominating everything? And I say, look, you've just got to enjoy it, because these kind of eras don't come around very often. We talk about him, even Eddie Merckx talks about him as the new Merckx. And you can say, I saw him, I witnessed him, I enjoyed, or indeed endured, whatever it is, you have to have an opinion. And Tadej Pogačar, he sets the tone.
I don't think anybody loves dominance in any sport.
Well, you want to see a battle.
But he's dominating in different ways. One-day races.
Yep.
I wouldn't say he dominated the kind of cobbled classics, but you know, he did look good. So he's such a versatile rider. You know, he does epic rides like this. Yeah, when he went, there was 100 kilometres to go, and then all of a sudden, was about 70 odd kilometres to go, he goes solo. If we were concentrating on Pogačar, it gives us commentators not a lot to talk about. Just one rider. But
good job with managed open.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's incredible what he's done, and you know, will continue to do. But for us, there's still a way to go to the finishing line for these guys. 3 of them, 2 medals. I think Pidcock's definitely gone. He might get collected by some of the riders behind, but it's just a matter of just getting to the finish for a lot of these riders now, and it must be tempting just to climb off a lap to go, because what else is it to get out? 30th or 35th or 25th place. But you know, Ireland, Denmark, Belgium, all within short of a medal today. Who's going to be in the podium? It's clear that Evenepoel was the strongest in this group here. He's doing a lot of work, but this gap going up 1:14. It looks as if it's going to be an easier ride for Pogačar than it was last year.
If indeed you could call this course anything but. It is remarkable, and so is this performance. And as you say, it's stretched out to 1 minute 14. Wollongong in 2022 was when Remco Evenepoel himself became World Road Race Champion. He is, of course, multiple times, 3 times consecutively, time trial world champion after securing that amazing feat here. The man he passed on the road during the time trial was Tadej Pogačar himself. He found 2.5 minutes in course, finished ahead of him. Well, today, those roles are reversed. Pogačar, indeed, faded to 4th place out of the medals in the time trial. Once the clock had stopped upon him. Not good enough for gold, but this was the big target. And it looks like he may have hit the bullseye from distance. It was a big bore performance in terms of riflery, if indeed that is a word. But no longer part of the Olympic programme, because the distances involved in big bore shooting were just so vast. 3 football pitches laid end to end and a target the size of an apple. No scopes allowed. You just had to aim for glory and pull the trigger. And that is exactly what Tadej Pogačar has done from 100 kilometres out. He went solo with 70 after Del Toro faded. He'd seen off Ayuso, and he's seen off absolutely everybody. He's holding a margin of 1 minute and 16 back to this trio. Evenepoel, Chelmos and Ben Healy. I mean, the quality of the chase, apart from anything else, but moreover, those who he has seen off Tadej Pogačar. It's going to be a battle for the medals for these guys, because the gap that they hold on those behind them has now magnified. The Roglic group is nearly 4 minutes down, Brian.
Yeah, there's not going to be many people finishing this World Champion. I think that was predicted anyway. Such a difficult course. It was just surprising to see the Pogacar going from 100 kilometres out, and I think the reason was he lost quite a lot of teammates on that climb and decided to kind of test it out. He was hoping that Del Toro would have been able to stay with him. He did try to kind of nurse him through at one point, kind of waited on him, but there's only so much you can do, and he's pushed on, and he's got 120 now, well in control of this World Championships.
Anybody else, you'd say, a minute and 20. This is still up for grabs with just shy of 29 kilometres to go. But it isn't just anybody, is it? It's Tadej Pogacar. And when he's in this kind of mood, from this kind of distance, and after this kind of day, he's in his element, Brian.
Yeah, clear that he wants to keep a hold of that world title. Won it last year. It was quite difficult to watch at times. He went through some tough times in front on his own, and such is the nature of these kind of one-day races now, that a lot of these riders going from distance, and this man is not shy of trying to go from distance. He's just getting some support from the car, as you would, and they must be loving it as well. Such a small nation, but such a big nation in cycling. Decided last year that he wasn't going to go to the Olympics. His partner wasn't selected, so he decided that, well, if you're not selecting her, I'm not going either.
I wonder what the selectors thought of that.
Still struggling, Remco Evenepoel there. You could see that the facial expression, just what else could I have done? It kind of went against me today. I went through a real bad patch there. Nothing was going well for me, and what else can I do? I can't catch this man here. I can't go for the world title, but I think he's keeping his demons at bay, and trying best by his team, and I think his team are demanding that he gets a medal today, and that medal should be silver.
Well, as it stands, it won't be a medal for Tom Pidcock, but what a brave ride. 3 minutes and 36 down. Haven't seen Jai Hindley for a while, neither Jan Christen, and indeed we wait to see as they cross the line. The Roglic group will come through. Giulio Ciccone still up there with Seychelles and Sivakov, I believe. Tom Squinch is bravely holding on, possibly. Knowing Tom Squinch, you'd be looking for a top 10 position, and that would be worthy of the man. He's been a great rider. By the way, well worth following on social media. There's a wonderful sense of fun about him, Tom Squinch, the man from Latvia. Well, he's carrying his rather fetching burgundy-coloured jersey. Along is the 34-year-old, now reaching that point within his career where we start to talk about turning leaves. Well, we are in the autumn. We found where the swallows have gone to winter up. But these guys here in Rwanda are thinking about sharing the spoils and something else that will shine brightly, and that will be a silver or a bronze medal. No shame in that. It's just a shame, in a sense, that one of these guys, by the looks of things, is going to miss out on the medal.
Yeah, I was thinking that myself. It would be nice, of course, for Remco to say, well, I've been a world champion, I've been on the podium, I'm currently a world champion.
No.
Well, there you go, there's silver and bronze, but he's not going to do that. I know that they are going to fight it out, and I think Remco would be the best, but like you say, it's either Healy or Skelmos that are going to miss out on being on the podium. I can say that Jai Hindley is about 30 seconds behind Pidcock on the road in 6th place, and then we've got a group of 10 riders. Ciccone, Sexas, Eulalio, Del Toro, Roglic, Sivakov, Jan Christian, Tejada, Honoré, Squinch and Ayuso, and they're at just over 5 minutes, so they're about 40 odd seconds behind Jai Hindley.
Well, I reckon we've got about 35, possibly 40 minutes to go of this effort. Depends on how...
What else do you know about Pogacar?
I know an awful lot about Tadej Pogacar, and you know what? It is just a basket of the impressive. I mean, I remember when I wrote my first book, Magic Spanner, and we were talking about some of the dominance. So, and things come in waves, and we were talking about the wave, of course, of British riders. Still enjoying some of those waves, of course, reaching the shore. But it was almost a tsunami of success, it seemed, from Great Britain. And there was a cycling nation, of course, in Slovenia that are absolutely nuts about all things cycling. And it was the only language that translated my book into their home language, and it was really nice when I liaised with the person who was doing the translation, and we spoke about the great riders that Slovenia had, of course, as well. And at that time, of course, primary in our thoughts was Primož Roglič, and of course the likes of Matej Mohoric and Luka Bezgets, etc. And the editor said, "And what about Tadej Pogacar?" I said, "Oh, the youngster," because he was such a kid at the time.
His medal, he might have, tried that a little bit harder, but he does what he does as long as he keeps kind of focused on the goals that he wants and enjoys what he does, because there must be a certain element that you need to have your downtime, you need to have time to enjoy yourself. I know that he does train with just white kit on or black kit on. He doesn't want to be kind of recognised, because when you're a superstar like him, and cycling is #1 sports across many countries, are up there with football, gets recognised everywhere, and you've seen a little bit of that with when you're working with Sean Kelly. All he wants to do is go out, spend time with his partner, Ursula, and just have a normal life. But I don't think he can have a normal life because of what he does in cycling.
Campaign Against Genocide Museum, and the building itself showing some of the scars which have been left to remind us of the conflicts that took place here. I don't know whether these indeed impact marks are indeed recreated, or it doesn't matter. Quite a sight indeed. A reminder of the dark times that have passed over this nation back in 1994, but also acting as almost a pivot, how this nation has renewed itself and brought such joy to the world of cycling. And you come here and miles of smiles. They call it the land of 1,000 hills, but 1,000 smiles as well. And we have had such fun as far as this amazing World Championship is concerned, and we thank the good people of Kigali in particular, of Rwanda most definitely, and the UCI for taking the decision to bring it to Africa for the first time. It has been an amazing festival. This day as well, although it seems set, you just never know, but let's see how it pans out over the next 20 kilometres or so. Tadej Pogacar, well, his first real big noise that he made when he beat the drum was the Tour de l'Avenir, as Brian was mentioning, back in 2018. And look at the riders who are around him as part of that cohort: Arnsman, Mada, Vlasov, Champuzan, Souza, Almeida, Dunbar. You know, these are proper rivals, yet he maintains.
Just one thing, just as you're going through that, Arnsman is the last man in the road at 8 minutes and 56 seconds in 31st place.
There you go. So the top two back then in 2018, when he was still a teenager. I can't remember whether he was 18 or 19, Tadej Pogacar, back then. Right now he's 27. And in fact, he's only just turned 27. That was, a week ago today, actually. So it wasn't much of a birthday when it came to the individual time trial, but boy, oh boy, he's blown the candles out today, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was 20 when he won the Tour de l'Avenir. So, but even just before that, he was showing signs when he was 18, 19.
In Ljubljana.
Yeah. He wasn't like Remco was. Remco, I think, was a little bit better when he was younger, because he was winning everything at junior. He went to Junior Worlds, but here he goes. He's off for silver.
I'm out of here. This is a silver medal up for grabs, and I don't want passengers anymore. Now then, 1:17. Let's see what happens to this gap, shall we? Because this, essentially, is going to be a 20-kilometre time trial by Remco Evenepoel to limit the damage and the gap that he has suffered in this race at the hands of Tadej Pogačar. Fabulous. Lights up the blue touch paper and goes the light blue touch paper, I think you might say. That's not an instruction, that's a colour. Meanwhile, what about this pairing? One of them right now is thinking, well, does it have to be bronze? And it looks like that. Think of it as rose gold and you can kick on, but kicking dust in the face of those around him. Remco Evenepoel, he's dug in for a little bit of glory. Runner-up in the road race and time trial world champion. I think you probably take that after all the difficulties that he has suffered. And the gap comes down. He finds very short order, 11 seconds. So here we go. Maybe we have got a battle on our hands for the very title. He's got 19 kilometres to get back at Tadej Pogačar, who I believe has not been going fully all in for the time being. He'll kick on if there's a danger of Evenepoel getting close, but it's going to be fascinating watching this one play out.
So he said in the time trial it takes 2.5 minutes back. He's only a minute behind. It's a different scenario in a road race, but did you see that Skelmos and Ben Healy? No reaction at all.
Couldn't do it. Could not do it. Well, the time trial, don't forget, was over a distance of 40 kilometres. This is half that distance. Well, if you can find half the time that he gained, he will still do it.
So he's going to win by 4 minutes?
No. He's got to, he's going to, let's see, Tadej Pogačar's time deficit on the day was 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes 37. He's got half the distance to do it, half of 2 minutes and 37, minute 15. He might win it by 10 seconds if he repeats the feat. Let's wait and see. Some very rudimentary maths there. Sorry for the bruises on the paper because of my pencil. It's just snapped. Meanwhile, so is this man's mood. He is going for it, and I'm loving this. This is where all he has to do, he has to rekindle his time trial mode, get into that place where he parks the pain and just digs in. We thought that Tadej Pogačar might be winning this by about 1.5 minutes. It doesn't look like that may well be the case right now. We'll see how dialed in Pogačar, any kind of margin will be good enough for him. As it stands, Pogačar has responded to Evenepoel's attack. Don't know how he's getting the information. There will be a car close at hand, I feel certain, but it's 1.7 minutes between them. Here's Tadej Pogačar. He's going to come up to take the bell once he's dealt with these cobbles, Brian.
Yeah, and it's a bell that we'll be looking forward to here. 107 back to Evenepoel. He'll know that, but his fans are out. He's in great spirits, and I think he's going to go round this final lap and take victory. But hats off to Evenepoel for keep on going after what he's had to bear with today. But I don't think there's any way of coming back to this man here. He just looks as if he's in total control.
Absolutely remarkable. Tadej Pogačar sailing away. The Roglic group, by the way, is now detailed at over 5 minutes. There's Tom Pidcock actually at 5 minutes, possibly even further back. Tom may well find himself as part of that Roglic group. Skelmos and Healy are now at 1 minute 25, 1 minute 7 back to Remco Evenepoel from Tadej Pogačar, who's out front and has now just engaged in the climb. It's a climb that may well see a little bit of an expanding of the gap between Remco Evenepoel here as he hits the cobbles. Had already made a smooth gear change before he even reached them. Last thing he needs now is yet another technical. He's had enough technical issues today. He's probably bruised his own time. And they're cheering, chanting, "Poggy, Poggy, Poggy." Tadej Pogačar fans seemingly everywhere. They're in good voice, good spirits, and you can understand why. He looks like a world champion in waiting. He'll take the bell and he'll have one lap to complete.
Yeah, you can also see the Belgian fans cheering as well. It's that they're cheering he maybe never won the time trial, but you know he's going to win this road race hands down. Going from a longer distance than anybody in history has ever gone.
Quite remarkable. Well, there you are, 1:09 now. We thought there might be a little bit of an expansion on the climb. Evenepoel, though, is going for silver. I guarantee you, when he gets to the podium, he will offer warmest congratulations to Tadej Pogačar, if indeed it all draws to a close. Still got a lap to go in that order. Evenepoel will realise what a great ride he has done for silver, and of course taken the time trial title as well. Not the road race this time, because the road is owned by Tadej Pogačar.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gold and silver in the two events he comes to in the World Championships. You know, I don't think, you know, anyone's done that in recent years as well. So he is a battler. He did look as if he threw his toys out a little bit, but he gathered them up again and thought, right, no, I'm better than this. And you don't often see that in races. Normally when riders' heads go, it's very difficult to turn that around, especially when you're having to change bikes. And what he's had to deal with it. But the biggest blow came, I think, in the Mount Kigali when he got dropped. That's a big blow for when you think that you're a major contender to win and you're getting dropped. After all the effort his team made today to ride, and they did more work than Slovenia did, let's be honest here. But when you're up against this man here, it made me laugh when I heard Vingegaard saying, well, if I wasn't in the Pogačar area, I'd be winning 5 Tour de France's. Yeah, that made me chuckle a little bit. You know, Pogačar said, oh, I would have won my second world title if it wasn't for Pogačar. You have to deal with what's in front of you, and unfortunately for everybody, if I was born in another era, I might have won many races. Can't think like that. So, Evenepoel, the two big favourites of the day, are on their own. And I get plenty of encouragement from the fantastic and probably best crowd at the side of the roads.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, it's been a festival of cycling, that's for sure. And we've already offered up our thanks, but we add to that our sheer appreciation of what's involved in bringing something like this to the table. UCI do it year in, year out, and they've provided another magnificent competition, and a brave decision, some might say, to bring it to Africa, and it's been paid back 10,000-fold, I think, by some amazing fans, and a wonderful welcome, brilliantly organised, and indeed a potential magnificent history-making title being taken by the defending champion Tadej Pogačar. Comes to the line, he takes the bell, and so will start his victory lap. How wonderful is that? He can spend time thinking how on earth he's going to celebrate, Brian, without technical. We don't want any of that getting involved. As it stands, the clock is ticking against Remco Evenepoel. It's red, of course, for everyone behind this man, dressed in green, green from go, and he went with 100 kilometres to go.
It's mind-boggling when you consider what both of these riders are doing. It's, you know, to go from 100 kilometres to go, okay, you had Del Toro, but for the last 100 kilometres, he's been averaging around about 42 kilometres an hour. But you try and ride along a road and see how long you can manage to do that on your own.
I've done it. It's about 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes. So that tailwind through the park in your Brompton.
That's right. Pretty good downhill as well at low speeds, but yes. You meant on the flat. Or maybe varied terrain. Yeah. Amazing. And look at the flags of nations that have come here to fate the greats. And Remco Evenepoel is one of the greats. Double Olympic champion, treble world time trial champion, former road race champion. Not going to be this time, and he still looks angry.
Yeah, he still looks angry and still looks as if he's suffering as well. It's going to be disappointment for one of these riders. You know, for me, Denmark have had success. Probably Ireland have had good success, but maybe not as much as Denmark over the years. But this is going to be intriguing to see what happens. Of course, my granddad being Irish, I would favour the Irish, but I think both of these riders deserve it. You cannot split a bronze medal. And in fact, it has happened before, Carlton. Can you remember?
It was a long time ago, and wasn't it between? Oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of a split in Flanders, which was a double declaration. Go on then.
Geelong.
That's right.
Under 23.
Yeah, dead heat.
Michael Matthews won.
Yeah.
John Degenkolb was second. And Taylor Finney and Guillaume Bovan shared the bronze medal.
Yeah, didn't go down to thousands, and they couldn't split them.
Yeah, couldn't split them.
Yeah, there you go.
So maybe we could organise that for Denmark and Ireland. What do you think?
It's hard. You can only almost achieve that by accident, quite frankly, on the photos. If they can't split you up by 1,000th of a second, it's a dead heat. 2 bronze medals. I guess they had to find one or chop one in half. Meanwhile, I say for the last time, it's Tony Bogacar up front. I've got a bit of a tick, as you may well have heard. I say meanwhile too often. I need to iron it out. Meanwhile, flattening this course is Tadej Pogacar, and here we are, 43 kilometres per hour. Brian, he's been so consistent, not only throughout his career, of course, but particularly today, when he's taken on the duty of imposing himself. He's done it brilliantly. Yeah,
he's got a sticker on his bike. I think he's the Incredible Hulk, and he has been that today. But looking at him there, this is not going to be easy. We were trying to put it in perspective there, at averaging 42 kilometres an hour at altitude in this humidity over this distance. You know, you mentioned everything. It's incredible. It's not a flat course today as well, so he's grimacing. I'm looking forward to the interviews afterwards, because this hasn't been easy. It looks easy. You know, 100 kilometres ago, I tell you what, I'm going to give it a go. I tell you what, Del Toro, stay with me. I will look after you. He's been super today. Remco, well, there's been quite a few things thrown at him. He's still there. He's still, he'll probably finish a minute and a half down. Second place, winner of the time trial. It's been nice to see his fight from the adversity. That's all I'm going to say. And then for the bronze medal, well, Denmark against Ireland, everybody else is out of it because, you know, they're over 5 minutes down. The two of them came into these championships as two kind of ranked outsiders. You see Serge Pauwels just giving Evgeny Paul plenty of encouragement. You still have to try and believe that something can happen, but silver medal and a gold medal, you'd have that all day long for Belgium.
Certainly would. Just trying to remind myself, because I can't, before we actually start, I always mark up the riders as to what I think their effectiveness would be. And I was just trying to see if, when I pondered it last night, how far ahead I had either Chelmors or indeed Healy from each other. And I had Ben Healy as a higher ranking, to be honest, giving him 3 stars and 2 for Chelmors. Chelmors was my big choice out of Denmark, and I've got to say that Ben Healy, of course, was my choice for Ireland. But I gave 3 stars to Ben Healy and just the 2 to Chelmors. And I don't think it was my own gene pool speaking to me here. Because my very name is Danish, actually. A Carlton means somebody from a free settlement, so a free man in Danish. There you go. So there's that, but also got Irish genes as well. But I don't think that entered into it. Ben Healy has been such a fantastic terrier and a great servant of the sport. It's been brilliant to watch him delivering. But yeah, likewise, Chelmors, fabulously entertaining and a good rider. I don't know who's going to win bronze.
Well, his girlfriend's waiting for him at the finish.
Well, how pleasant is that? To have yourself almost the ultimate prize. 5.3 kilometres to go. 1 minute and 29. Well, here we are. The chase. The chase 3 is for the bronze medal, and it is, of course, between Schelmos and Ben Healy. Man out front. Well, we've been saying for a while that he's hard to close down, and he's extending the lead now, Brian. It is up to 1 minute and 30. Absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, no real surprise there. I was just looking at where Urska Ziegard finished yesterday. She was just outside the top 10, top 10?
Yeah, I think so. Possibly 9th. I'll double check in a moment's time.
She's just waiting for her partner, Kari Pogačar, at the finisher line there.
Schelmos and Ben Healy, a battle for bronze. They're going to start cat and mousing. They've got a little bit of a cushion to endure or enjoy this battle. Still don't know who's going to get it. I would say from distance, Ben Healy would be the favoured one, but Schelmos, he's got a bit of a kick on him. He's not a bad time trialist in his own right, let's not forget. Ben Healy also got a bit of a time trialling head. It's how they cope with the climb, because there's not going to be much kick left between the pair of them, Brian, at the end.
No, I think he's going to have the strongest legs in there. I'll just update because we're concentrating on the medals at the moment, but going across the line behind the Healy Schelmos group was another group containing Ciccone, Ayuso, Squinch, Del Toro, Eulalio, Roglic. Sexas was just behind. Pidcock was at 6:33. Away back to Jan Christian now, 17 riders, 7.5 minutes. So even Tom Pidcock has gone further back. So there's a group of 5 riders, Eulalio, Del Toro, Squinch, Ayuso and Ciccone.
Well, it'll be a top 10 that they will be thinking about, and I think that counts for an awful lot, possibly even a top 15 or 25. You go figure. It might be that 20 is about the cut-off today, because it's all going to be on timings. Anyone who's still active, I think, will get a finish, because there is no laps to be repeated. We are coming up to our finish, and Tadej Pogačar is going to ride this one home. He's got 7 kilometres to complete. It's been a very, very long day, an arduous one. Some say the hardest World Championship course that there has ever been. Over 5,300 metres of altitude gain, extended over an enormous distance of 267.5 kilometres at altitude, with humidity, and with a fantastic field of riders, all determined to give their very best from whatever nation they come from. Some, of course, have higher expectations, and none heavier than the defending champion. And Tadej Pogačar has stood up into the spotlight and has shone brilliantly, a green light on everything.
Yeah, he has. You know, you're talking about all the negatives of altitude, humidity, you know, probably the hardest, the elevation gain, everything like that. They're already kind of celebrating their second world title, but what they have had is probably one of the best crowds at World Championships I've ever seen.
Been amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'd like to say I think Yorkshire probably had a good crowd, but it got washed out by some torrential rain.
Yeah, there was that a little bit, but I just think that the Rwandans have just been celebrating cycling instead of just, you know, concentrating on the Rwandan cyclists. They're just happy for this event to be here, and you know they've been doing this all day, all week. You know, for everybody. Yeah, everybody that I've been in contact, I've been here, the crowd's been amazing. And the support, normally you come to a World Championship, you support, you know, your country. Well, they're supporting every country.
They are not issuing an oath, but just getting a little bit upset. He needs to be proud of what he's achieved today. This has been absolutely magnificent. It's been a privilege to watch him. Nothing is easy, especially in the world of absolute elite sport, and that's what we're watching at the moment. There may be a big gap between Tadej Pogačar and everybody else, but Remco Evenepoel had the beating of him in the time trial, and indeed is potentially heading for a silver medal here, provided nothing silly still happens to him. He's got a margin of getting on for 50 seconds, around about that, between himself and the battle for bronze. And here it is, Chelmos and Ben Healy. Ben Healy been hanging on the back wheel for a while. This is quite a way out to be already in this position. But, you know, they'll feel like they're closer to home than perhaps they are, Brian. There's still quite a way for them to go in this little battle.
I can remember watching the Worlds last year, and I was kind of dipping in and out, as you do, in a long race. And you can see that Pogačar went through a difficult patch. Well, I don't think he's done anything wrong today. He's looked infallible, saw no weakness whatsoever.
Healy's testing. He's actually come to this climb, Brian. He was sitting on the back wheel for quite some time. This is an attempt to shake off Chelmos. I think he'd quite like to finish without having to put up with the sprint. And this is his first move. There's 2 bike lengths, possibly 3 bike lengths. Oh, and there's bye-bye medal for Chelmos by the looks of things. And Ben Healy, he knew that he had to shake him off. It was a question of when he was going to do it. He'd taken an awful long time to hang on the back wheel of Matej Chelmos, and I'm afraid for the Dane that this here by Ben Healy, who's kicked on. It's just a question of legs, you might say, but it's a little bit more than that. You've got to have some planning in there. You've got to be ruthless as well. And Ben Healy has struck out here for a bronze medal. He wants to be on that podium, and he's going to earn it. What a fantastic move it was, Brian.
Yeah, he did this in the Tour of Luxembourg. I did just before this race, where both of these riders were riding, but that's just what Healy does. He just goes to the front and starts to grind away. At this stage of the competition, it's about what you have left in the legs, and Ben Healy's just got that little bit more left in the legs than Chelmos, and you know he'll be wanting to grab this bronze medal for Ireland.
Yes, he will. That familiar riding style of his, where he just tips his head towards one side, and in fact imposing himself brilliantly here. Chelmos, not all over for him, but 4.2 kilometres it must feel like it. His national car and his team came up to have a brief word, trying to instill a sense of urgency to him, but it may only be displayed as a modest margin, but it's getting bigger here, as you can see. And it is a widening gap, and we have medals defined by the looks of things. And as always, it seems to be on the climbs of this circuit, Brian.
Yeah, it's been an amazing championship, and a display of dominance from Pogačar. He's taken back-to-back victories. You know, you have to say that Evenepoel has been through the rack, you know, come out the other side, but it's been a long, long wait for Ireland to get onto the podium in this race. Wow. The last time was
Sean Kelly back in the day.
You talked about it earlier. 1989 in the Chambéry with Greg LeMond winning from Dmitry Konishev. So way back in Chambéry when that happened, that was 36 years ago.
Sean
a long wait.
Whenever we go there, Sean Kelly still gets upset. Thought he would have won that day. Greg LeMond said he had bad legs and turned it round into very, very good legs. Well, what a piece of achievement to celebrate. Ireland have been on the top step, of course, in the past as well, Brian.
2 years before, 1987.
There we are. Well, right now, Ben Healy, it's been a long old gap for a medal at the Worlds, and he's going to get one. So it'll be Lincoln Green, I guess you might say. Actually, that's in England. What am I talking about? What do they call the Green of Ireland?
Emerald.
Thank you.
Emerald Isle.
That's right, the Emerald Green. Thank you very much. We have the green of Slovenia that is going to come to the fore, though, however. 2.3 kilometres to go until this man turns green into rainbows. Absolutely remarkable. Remco Evenepoel is, as predicted by Brian, with his amazing crystal ball, A minute and a half down. It might well be that Tony Pogacar wants to make this as big as possible. If he can make this 2.5 minutes, that would be a real statement after the time trial.
It would be, but probably a little bit more, just to dig in a little bit. But yeah, no, the crowd at the finish are wait. So does Urska Zegard, his partner. She had a credit to her. She had a good ride yesterday in the women's race. She was in the thick of it towards the end. But she's waiting for her champion. Over the last year, we've only ever seen him in a leader's jersey or the world jersey, and it's going to be another year like that, you feel.
Remco is enjoying this little bit of respite on the descent. He's now got to power himself up to bring it home. He's going to come to the cobbles here. He's being shown the gap on the chalkboard. Meanwhile, already engaged at the top part of this climb is Tadej Pogacar himself. Remco holding station around about a minute and a half down, and the celebrations amongst the Slovenian crew have already begun. Congratulations to them. They had a big battle plan. They came here with the biggest team, 9 riders, 8 plus the world champion. That's what you're allowed. They brought them all. They used them absolutely beautifully, but still the big question has to be answered. And part of it began to reveal itself with 100 kilometers to go. What an amazing tale. Tadej Pogacar does it again, and from distance, an amazing gap.
Yeah, it's, and I can remember the scenes last year. Okay, it was different conditions. Today it's nice and sunny. The whole team were there, throwing Pogacar in the air. You know, they won the world title for the first time ever. You know, they're celebrating. They came here with high expectations. Okay, the time trial didn't go as well as expected, but this has gone absolutely to plan.
Absolutely remarkable. He's had a hell of a season as Tadej Pogacar. Tour de France, of course, went his way. He pulled out of La Vuelta very, very late on. Wanted to concentrate on retaining the rainbow bands, which, of course, it looks like he's going to be wearing next year as well. What on earth can stop him? He could probably run it home from here. But he's on the cobbles for the last time. On the rack, you might say, the entire field behind him. He is going to finish alone, and he is going to finish from such an incredible distance where he started this drive for the line and for glory. And look at the smile. It is a smile that's bursting through the grimace here, Brian.
Yeah, I think, you know, the first time you win a major title, I was fortunate to win a British title twice. The first time, it's great, you know, it's new. But the second time, it's about taking it in more, and I think that's what Pogacar is doing. He's got that a minute and a half. He can take it. He can breathe a little bit. He's done the job for the second time, and I think this will be kind of slightly extra special from him. You know, he did go through the emotions last year. He went through a difficult period, but for Pogacar to come back, you know, from last year and win this in a dominant fashion, this is extra special.
Tadej Pogacar is bringing home his second consecutive World Road Race title. So much has been placed at the table of this man, but he has to pick it up every single time, and he did so from an incredible distance. 100 kilometers out, he imposed himself on this race, as he has done on the entire world of cycling. Ever since, as a young man, he rocked into our consciousness. He has stayed there, rock and roll all the way to the line. Tadej Pogacar in charge of his own destiny constantly, it seems. He measures himself against the very best and finds himself in clear space with nobody around him. It's become something perhaps he should get used to, but it doesn't. Him enjoying the moment. Televocacia in charge. And how will they celebrate? We shall wait for Remco Evenepoel, who will come in for an amazing silver medal. But just listen to this.
Yes.
Brian, he never seems out of breath.
No, it was amazing. I just like the fact that they stopped the vehicles to get that clean shot at the end. No vehicles in the background, and his whole team already showered, changed, ready to welcome their champion again for the second year in a row.
Let's welcome another champion, shall we? Our time trial champion, and really a champion of our hearts as well. Remco Evenepoel. He's had his troubles. Of course he has. He is a man who often wears his heart on his sleeve. Sometimes, indeed, he looks precocious. Sometimes he looks just downright upset and crestfallen. But he remanaged himself. He regathered himself. He reignited himself and his challenge. He has already taken one World Championship title. He may be shaking his head here about what might have been had it been technically a little bit difficult. But in terms of spirit, he has achieved greatness. A silver medal for Remco Evenepoel, quietly accepted now. I am certain there will be a smile upon the podium. And what about the last medal that we will award in these World Championships? It will be hung around the neck of Ben Healy. What a tale this is as well. It's been decades since Ireland had found themselves in a medaling position. Ben Healy had to shake off Shelmoza. He also had to shake off any doubts that he had, coming from a small team. But such a great run. This comes in small packages, and Ben Healy is one of those. He is a terrier. He terrorises those around him, and he punches the air. He knows he's going to be sharing a podium with some magnificent riders, of which he can count himself one. Bronze medal. Silver medal for Remco Evenepoel, quietly accepted now. I am certain there will be a smile upon the podium. And what about the last medal that we will award in these World Championships? It will be hung around the neck of Ben Healy. What a tale this is as well. It's been decades since Ireland had found themselves in a medaling position. Ben Healy had to shake off Shelmoza. He also had to shake off any doubts that he had, coming from a small team. But such a great run. This comes in small packages, and Ben Healy is one of those. He is a terrier. He terrorises those around him, and he punches the air. He knows he's going to be sharing a podium with some magnificent riders, of which he can count himself one. Bronze medal. Absolutely astounding. What a welcome.
UCI Road World Championships Men Elite Road Race. Cérémonie protocolaire des championnats du monde de route UCI 2025, course en ligne homme élite.
hagiye guhembwa abatsinze muri shampiyona y'isi y'amagare mu 2025 mu bagabo Men Elite Road Race.
The bronze medal will be presented by Monsieur David Lapartien, UCI President. La médaille de bronze sera remise par Monsieur David Lapartien, président de l'UCI.
Umudari wa bronze ugiye gutangwa na perezida wa UCI Bwana David Lapartien.
In third place and winner of the bronze medal, representing Ireland. À la troisième place et vainqueur de la médaille de bronze, représentant l'Irlande.
Umudari wa bronze ugiye kwegukanwa n'umukinnyi ukinira Ireland,
Ben Healy.
It's a rock star atmosphere here, and Ben Healy is part of it. He's taken a bronze medal for Ireland. That is magnificent.
The silver medal will be presented by His Serene Highness, Prince Albert II of Monaco. La médaille d'argent sera remise par Son Altesse Sérénissime, le Prince Albert II de Monaco.
wa kabiri n'umudari wa feza biratangwa na n'igikomangoma Albert wa kabiri wa Monaco.
In second place and winner of the silver medal, representing Belgium. À la deuxième place et vainqueur de la médaille d'argent, en représentant la Belgique.
Ku mwanya wa kabiri n'umudari wa feza yegukanywe n'umukinnyi ukinira Ububirigi,
Remco Evenepoel.
He is, of course, also a champion, having won the time trial. And I think he will contemplate this ultimately and realise what an achievement it is. No shame in runners-up, especially the manner of which he took silver. That was an amazing ride.
The rainbow jersey and gold medal will be presented by His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, and Monsieur David Lapartien, UCI President. Le meilleur arc-en-ciel et la médaille d'or seront remises par Monsieur Son Excellence Paul Kagame, Président de la République du Rwanda, et de David Lapartien, Président de l'UCI.
umwambaro w'uwatsinze n'umudari wa zahabu biratangwa na nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika y'u Rwanda His Excellency Paul Kagame na perezida wa UCI Bwana David Lapartien.
In first place, UCI World Champion and winner of the gold medal, representing Slovenia. À la première place, champion du monde UCI et gagnant de la médaille d'or, représentant la Slovénie.
Shampiyona y'isi yo gusiganwa ku magare n'umudari wa zahabu yegukanywe n'umukinnyi ukinira Slovenia,
Tadej Pogačar.
What an amazing champion, and what an amazing atmosphere as well. It's almost hard to quantify just what a brilliant scenario has been created here. And what a great way to win it as well. Tadej Pogačar, heroic status here to so many in this amazing day after an amazing week of racing at these World Championships here in Rwanda.